Thank you, Stephanie. Pardon me. Good morning and welcome back, everyone, panelists and webinar attendees alike. Um, I'll be quick. I'll begin with an overview of the day's panels and a bit of housekeeping, and then we'll go straight to panel one. First, an overview of the day. I will harken back to yesterday for a moment to state that yesterday's panels, excellent and uplifting panels, focused on curricular innovation that's taking place through Perkins leadership grants across the state. We shift today in our panels to from programmatic leadership to leadership in supporting students through more equitable access to programs and enhancing students' employability. And indeed, that's what we all ultimately aim for, creating programs and supportive environments toward success for every student desiring a better life through post-secondary education. I'd say that pretty well defines the community college mission. This day will conclude with closing remarks from Dr. Tina Jackson and final Q&A with Dr. Jackson. Now let me move on to a bit of housekeeping. The meeting is being recorded, and as you've already observed, live captioning is on. Attendees should remain muted. Moderators and panelists, of course, should be live when they are speaking. We ask that you pose questions in Q&A, with the exception that panelists having questions will have to use the background chat, as Stephanie just pointed out. We'll address questions during discussion following each presentation. And finally, let me just introduce again Dwayne Hiller, who will serve as our timekeeper. He will Dwayne bomb your presentation and let you know when you have 5 minutes left. Dr. Sherry Rannis will be our questions moderator and will join with each panel discussion and for final Q&A with Dr. Jackson. Stephanie is our all things webinar for this event. She's making this happen and she's supporting every aspect of it. I want to acknowledge too Valerie Carrera, who was with us yesterday in the background and is with us today in the background. Valerie is a Perkins colleague at the agency and in this department for CTE and Perkins, who is handy in all things, and she's just here to troubleshoot and assist as needed. So thanks to Valerie and welcome. Okay, well, let me get started. Our first panel is titled Enhancing Employability. I'll introduce the moderator, Tricia Thomas Anderson. Ms. Anderson, Thomas Anderson, is Senior Director for Sponsored Projects at Dallas College. And Tricia, I will give it to you to introduce the panelists, and I'll let you guys get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy, and good morning to everyone. And as Mindy shared, I have the pleasure of introducing our panelists this morning. And so our first panel group is from Austin Community College, and they will be talking about their Career Connection and Completion Project. From Austin Community College, we have Natalia Almanza. Natalia Almanza is the manager for career programs with Austin Community College. Her experience with ACC spans over 10 years in various departments. Natalia specializes in creating diverse workforce programs to help students gain a level 1 or level 2 certificate while in high school in a high demand workforce area. She is responsible for creating partnerships with industry and community members to help provide internships and mentors to our future employees. She also works to ensure students utilize resources that are available to themselves as well as their families so that the students can remain focused and successful while completing the program. Natalia is inspired by her coworkers who work tirelessly to provide excellent service to students and families in Central Texas and surrounding communities. When she has free time, she likes to watch cartoons with her children and eat barbecue with her husband. Natalia has a bachelor's degree from Texas State University in Family Consumer Sciences and a master's degree from St. Edward's University in College Student Development. Her colleague joining her this morning is Rebecca Robinson Francis. Rebecca was the interim coordinator for high school career programs at Austin Community College. Rebecca has over 20 years in high school to college workforce pathways. She has been instrumental in promoting the creation of a new department for high school career programs that concentrates on certificate and degree seeking pathways for high school students. These students are in multiple programs from ACC's career academies to PTECs. Rebecca is delighted that Natalia has taken over the career programs, allowing her to take a step back and concentrate on other initiatives. And so I turn it over to Natalia and Rebecca.
Hello, good morning. Thank you all for this opportunity to be here and share our growth and our learning experience with you all. We have been inspired by this adventure and we have learned a lot, to say the least. We are excited to continue moving forward and creating more academies. Next slide, please. So as we begin, I would like to first explain the main goal of the Career Connections and Completion Program grant. In the fall of 2019, we received funding to help improve the career guidance, academic support, and counseling for students to make better informed career and technical decisions. ACC's high school programs took on the initiative to expand outside of the traditional dual credit courses and work towards building stronger workforce dual credit programs. We had a few career academies at various schools, but with this grant, we utilized this opportunity to emphasize and structure the career academies to help students get a better feel of the workforce before they entered. The academies were catered by our traditional dual credit coordinators, but again, with the grant, we were able to put dedicated staff to focus only on building and maintaining these programs, as well as ensuring our students completed their certification successfully. Our academies are dual credit courses in high demand workforce areas, in which high school students can obtain a level 1 or 2 certification that would allow them to enter into the workforce directly after high school, if they choose to do so. We also focus on ensuring our programs were stackable, so students could also continue their education with ACC if they choose to do so as well. We work to encourage our students that a level 1 certification is not the end-all be-all, but instead a gateway to bigger and better. So from the example you see in our slide for the Manufacturing Academy, you see how students enter the academy, take 6 courses or 23 college hours while in our program. While taking these courses, they also complete their CPT cert, which is a certified production tech. These are tests that they take at the end of each semester. Our program is 4 semesters long. Once the CPT exams are passed, this gives students the CE continuing education credit that they can then apply as college credit, leaving the student with only 31 hours in their associate's degree to complete. We explain that they can work and complete their associate's degree, or work and then come back to complete their associate's degree, or they can just complete their degree and then go to work afterwards. We talk to them about what fits their lifestyle and of course their family's needs. Next slide, please. So this is the current list of our career academies. The lighter purple color were academies / opportunities that were in place when the grant, before the grant. And the lighter darker purple are the newer ones that with the grant we've been able to create, thanks to both the leadership grants. We feel at this time we have a good foundation in high demand career needs areas, and now we are working to continue expansion at various high schools. We were also very strategic, because as part of the grant as well, with our academies, as we like to focus on recruitment to students in economically and underrepresented areas. With the exception of about 3 academies, we do our very best to stay in the realm of being TSI waived. We understand that this can be a huge deterrent for students, so we want to make sure that these programs are a bit more attractive by waiving this requirement and helping students focus on job readiness. Next slide, please. As a Career Academy student, we work to offer wraparound services and a dedicated team who guides students from start to finish. sometimes after if needed. We offer monthly readiness training and workshops, which are currently virtual, to ensure they have the professional skills for the jobs they wish to enter. I tell my students all the time, you may have the job skills that the employer wants, but if you can't show up on time, you don't dress properly, or you can't solve a problem, they're not going to want to keep you for long. The professional skills of time management, teamwork, strong communication are the icing on the cake for employers. We also do this as an opportunity to help our students become college ready, as these professional skills will set them up to be strong students who will be very good and prepared for when they enter into the college realm. One thing not listed on here is we are working to help our students also become TSI ready for graduation. As I stated in the previous slide, we make these programs attractive by waiving the TSI, but we want them to be TSI ready before they graduate so that if they wish to continue with ACC, they will not be surprised by the requirement of testing. So we work with the high schools to get them TSI tested or help them get prepped for testing. And if they need to test after graduation, then we work with other ACC departments to help them with TSI prep as well as testing as well. We offer in some, but not all, mentors in industry and internship opportunities. Working on this, it'll be on the next slide. But most importantly, to stay on our goal. Oh, I'm sorry, not yet, not in the next slide yet. But we work with our students to help them understand that we want to give them and create a foundation of support to help them become successful. We remind students that they are not just high school students taking college level courses. They are actually ACC students who have access to all of ACC support services, meaning that they can use the ACC library, the computer lab, the support center, support resources that are needed if they need to check out a equipment, an iPod, if they need to use a book. The support center is great at lending out books for students who can't afford it. They also have emergency resources like funding for bills and things. So we're very excited to share these resources with our students. Next slide, please. So with this leadership grant, we focused on tutors for our Health Science Academy as they tended to be the most rigorous and stressful courses. We really wanted to help increase our successes with our students. So we obtained 2 hourly tutors who would work about 3 hours weekly to assist our students in person on Fridays during the students' off days. When COVID hit, this all changed and we needed to find other ways for our students to obtain the support needed. We moved our tutors online so they could be virtual and offered office hours so that they would be available for the students. We also increased their time to about 5 hours per week as needed due to the online learning. And you can see that we did take a hit in our slide. We took a hit in the spring when COVID first interrupted our semester. But by the fall semester, our students felt better supported and we had learned to work with our technology to better assist our students. We really worked / pushed our faculty to get our tutors into the online classes so they could be present and utilize their off times to help students who were struggling and needed assistance. Our tutors also assisted students with more than just subject matter. They did presentations on how to use Blackboard, our online platform, and how to use Zoom to help students become successful in their classes. We even though we took a hit in the spring semester, we really wanted to take the time to focus on getting our students comfortable in the virtual format, and we feel that that paid off. Our tutors are former ACC students who really understood what it's like to be in this area, and they understood the requirements of this area. So they really quickly changed their way of thinking and were able to utilize their own way of being a student. And because their own personal jobs actually had to go online, they were really quick to adjust themselves and help these students work through this format. Our coordinator, who I'll talk about in a minute, actually worked really hard to connect our tutors to the faculty with this, as well. The tutors became a huge bridge for our faculty. I feel like this was a double impact of support. She worked to ensure our faculty had the office hours for the tutors and posted on their syllabus, Blackboard, and website. On a side note, one of our tutors has done an amazing job, so well that she's actually become a part-time adjunct for us now. And we hope to see her continue to grow and maybe become a full-time faculty with us. That's a hope and a support, we'll see. Next slide, please. So the main objective of the grant was to hire a full project coordinator. This position is to assist with providing academic support and counseling for Career Academy students. Her job has been pivotal in our success with our students. She has worked hard to create a career readiness calendar and maintain events with our district partners. This can be conducting information sessions with CTE teachers, students, and high school counselors. In the fall in 2019, we were able to conduct a health science showcase in which we brought students from Del Valle, Manor, Elgin, and Austin ISD to our ACC Eastview campus to view our health sciences department at the Eastview. Students were able to speak to faculty and our department chairs about our pharmacy program, our phlebotomy program, as well as EMT. Unfortunately, in 2020, in the spring, when we had hoped to house our 20 showcase, we had to cancel due to COVID. But 2 weeks ago, we actually did our spring 21 health science showcase virtually. It was on a very rainy day, and we did have some spotty internet, but we had over 100 students register with their family. We had a little over than 55 students show up to view our presentation. It was done in English and in Spanish, which was a huge benefit and resource for us. And in the next coming weeks, we also hope to do our first manufacturing showcase. We will be working with ARMA, which is Austin's Regional Manufacturers Association, to present information for students and family on the industry. We also want to work with TRIO. We do work with TRIO currently, but we also hope to do another showcase with TRIO with our program liaison to recruit and to even make our commitments or some ceremonies with TRIO even bigger. Our coordinator also conducts monthly emails with our other career programs coordinator. Currently they are online, but she's been really great at helping students find online workshops and presentations about resume writing, interview practice, dressing for success, just to help them become that employee that these employers want. Our coordinator has also built a really strong and great connection with our ACC Career Services and utilize their online platform and presentations to include our student population as well. Again, with COVID, we had really hoped to create a lot of this stuff on our own and have our own kind of library for us. But when our world got turned upside down and we had to shut down, we ended up going back to the basics and just utilizing the resources that were available for us. And that was, to me, actually something that worked out to our benefit, because I feel like it really created a stronger bond with our other departments. And it actually helped us make a stronger bridge for these students, that now that they see this resource as a high school student, when they do continue on as a college student, they know that that resource is there. They've been to it before. They understand that it's available for them, so that they continue to utilize it even after they're no longer a high school student with us. Another main focus of her job has been advising and ensuring students are keeping on track to complete their certification and to complete successfully. We initially had hoped to create our own program map, but again, due to COVID and shutting down, we instead chose to utilize what the departments already had in place. Again, I found this to be much more beneficial, as it helped to create a stronger relationship with our department. The departments have been amazing with helping us to learn the whole advising procedures, helping us with any substitutions that needed to be applied, and helping us with degree audits and making sure that they were completed correctly. So I feel like this has become a real team effort. Our coordinators offer weekly office hours as well, virtually currently, to be available for students who just either want to talk or they have a question, and for especially our seniors who are about to graduate, to make sure that they are where they need to be, so that they have all their ducks in a row, and that they're like, hey, Ms. Gonzalez, I just need to ask this one question. Can I just jump in? And sometimes it just helps students. They've gotten really comfortable in the Zoom format that they can just pop in, ask the question, and check out, just like kind of like an office. They would walk by and ask a question and then check out. As we move into our newer grant, and I'll talk about that in my later presentation, our current coordinator has been very instrumental in helping us research and working to create and beginning the puzzle pieces of setting up our sorry, I got tied up, of beginning our puzzle pieces of our 2 part-timers that will inherit and work to put into effect our stronger pathway of mentors and internships. so that our students can walk into their industries of choice and be able to intern at these places and really get a view of what they're about to do. The main goal, of course, is to give the students the opportunity to engage themselves in the work that they wish to enter and see that the jobs are out there for them. As we, oh, I'm sorry. As we work to recruit in underrepresented areas, I am very thankful my coordinator is bilingual. This has brought a new realm of support, not only to our students, but to our families. When she does presentations, she's able to do them both in English and Spanish and in sign language as well. So she's trilingual, which has been a huge benefit to our families because, again, going back to our main goal of helping students make better career and informed decisions, it brings in the family aspect that sometimes we think only the student is going to make, but when they bring in their family, it helps them make it together, unified as one. Next slide, please. So let's talk about our success and our progress. With COVID, recruitment in the fall of 20 was super hard. We recruit heavily in the spring prior to the fall. So yeah, that was not as much fun. Everyone was scared to start something new. Everyone was scared nobody knew where we were, which was completely understandable. No one was 100% sure how they would handle the new virtual realm, even including us as ACC at the time when we were starting to get ready for some of our newer programs. We couldn't even tell some of our schools whether they were going to be online or in person either. So we were trying to sell programs and we couldn't really say how we would present them. So we took a step back in the fall and really had to think about in the spring to get ready for fall. And we really had to think about our programs. Our programs, and we rely sometimes very heavily on our in-house ISD teachers, such as like biotechnology. We took a huge hit because when our schools were facing a teacher shortage, as many teachers didn't want to go back or were fearful, or with them being online, they pulled their teachers from us because they had to focus on their classes, which was completely understandable, and we respected that. So we knew our classes were meant to be in person as they are hands-on learning programs. When you talk about automotive, when you talk about manufacturing, health sciences, these are hands-on learning places in schools. So we knew our population would prefer to learn hands-on, so we had to get creative. So after the fall, when we knew everybody was a little bit more comfortable and everybody settled down and we knew we didn't put so much pressure, we went ahead and took the time to really let people get used to this environment. We cut ourselves slack. We said, okay, let's work through this. Let's think outside the box. And so after the fall, when more schools seemed to be opening their online learning to classes that would allow options for students, we were able to open up the opportunities, and many of our faculty who are teachers in the district were able to help us by keeping the classes to a minimum number, meaning where a class would have had maybe 20, we cut it down to 12 or sometimes 10 if possible. We also did it where if we had to, some students would go one day, like in our phlebotomy and our pharmacy classes, where classes were Mondays and Wednesdays. Some students went on Monday, the other classes went on Wednesday, while the other half was virtually. So that way it would limit the amount of students that were in the building. Other programs such as our IT Academy can be done completely 100% online. So as you can see in our enrollment, actually that helped with our growth. So we were really excited by that. I also put in our graduation report. So you can see that we're steadily increasing. We took a hit, but it's okay. We still find that this is encouraging. We still find that this is something that we're on the right pathway. We still have some work to do, but we're working towards it and we're excited to keep moving forward. Next slide, please. So in looking to our future and our sustainability, we connected with the Boy Scouts of America Exploring program. Exploring exists to teach important life and career skills to young people from all backgrounds through immersive career experiences and mentorship. Exploring offers hands-on career discovery through interactive activities that help youth pursue special interests that help students grow and develop. The Exploring program arranges tours of big companies such as Samsung, Apple, and Toyota Factory, and they do monthly career connections in which they bring professionals from various industries to talk about their careers and how they got there. This gives students the opportunity to hear what it takes to do this job. Exploring really helped to give students the glimpse of their potential future jobs. As I heard yesterday about students becoming better consumers, it's true. We have a lot of students who have this vision of what their job is going to be like. They're so quick to jump on the bandwagon of, yes, this is what I want to do. But once we put them in the environment, we put them on the class, they're like, nope, not for me. So having this partnership has helped our students to see exactly the rigor, the hardships, and the expectations needed to be successful in these areas. One example is our EMT program. We have a lot of seniors who jump into the EMT program thinking this is going to be a quick job that they can do while they're in, working towards their degree, or they think it looks like good on TV and they'll go for fun rides. And then when they're doing their rotations and they're out to 2 or 3 in the morning, they quickly realize this is a lot more intense. They know they want to be in the health science field. They understand that this is the realm that they want to be in, but EMT may not be their best fit. So we really work with them to help give that big picture view of all the industry and not just that one area. In last month's health science presentation with the Exploring program, we had all these panelists, and one of them was a pharmacist, and she explained that she didn't obtain her bachelor's degree. She completed all her required courses at ACC, then she applied to UT Pharmacy School, received her PhD, and is working in the industry now. Many of the students in the conversation were surprised, as they thought that PhD meant years and years and years of school. So the fact that she was able to say, nope, it wasn't that long, and I did it pretty fairly fast, they were amazed by this. So I like that we give them this opportunity to see various routes they can take to get to where they want to be. Working with Explorers has been, I think, a great fit, as we are able to utilize the Career Connections Talk and introduce our academies to students so they can see the direct pathway to the industry or career they wish to join. The pipeline we are creating with Exploring is to create a foundation to help students stay engaged and become more aware of their chosen career path. For students who are unsure, they get to learn about different industries, different jobs, and see what it would be like to work in these areas. The advice they get from different mentors, different industry partners to come in and speak to them, it is valuable. And these students have the opportunity just to hear it, see it, learn it, and decide if this is the area they want to be in. We work to have our students participate in Exploring from middle school to 10th grade, so that way we can definitely filter them into our programs, which begin as juniors and seniors. Also, in creating this pipeline, we also work with the ACC Career Academies, Career Scholars Department, so that our students who wish to continue on with their education after they graduate high school can apply for scholarships and be awarded funding, where again, they may be able to obtain and keep their mentor in the industry, as well as have their school paid for. So it continues on afterwards, so the students can hopefully obtain their associate's degree. And I believe that is it. That is my last slide. And this is our contact information if you have any other questions or concerns.
Thank you, Natalie. And that was a wonderful presentation. We, I believe, now can open up for questions. And I'll start, if it's okay, with the first question that I have.
Trisha?
Yes.
Trisha, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we will do Q&A when both presentations have been done.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. So you can go ahead and introduce Houston Community College.
All right, so our next program from Houston Community College on leveraging industry credentials will be presented by Ms. Taryn Batiste and Mr. Tom Ronk. Taryn is the accreditation coordinator at Houston Community College. Taryn provides leadership of administration and daily operations of third-party accreditations and industry-recognized credentials. For 17 years, she has worked in higher education in various capacities in Louisiana and Texas at both private and public colleges and universities. Taryn received a Bachelor of Arts degree with honors in mass communications and a Master's of Public Administration from the Nelson Mandela School of Public Policy, both from Southern University A&M College. Tom is the Workforce Quality and Development Director at Houston Community College. Tom provides district-wide leadership for all HCC instructional programs in areas of high-quality program development, labor market research, strategic planning, and faculty development to ensure relevancy of curriculum to meet industry needs, while providing career pathways to economic and social mobility for students. Tom has more than 20 years of experience in education nationally as well as internationally. And before they start with their presentation, just an overview of the grant project. Building upon Houston Community College's successful model of implementing a system-wide shared responsibility approach to third-party programmatic accreditation process, this grant project, leveraging industry credentials of value to drive quality, equity, and completion, will develop a similar system-wide shared responsibility model to focus on industry recognized credentials at the course and program levels. ACC will partner with Texas Southmost College and WorkCred, an affiliate of the American National Standards Institute, to design deliverables, ensure relevancy and replication across multi-generic regions and the state. And so I give you Taryn and Tom.
Thank you so much, Tricia. And wanted to just point out too, the work that you've been working on, the credit for prior learning is so relevant to what we're doing. So I will be reaching out to you to learn from you and incorporate it into this grant. And I think everyone will see a little bit of that. Before we started, just wanted to also give a big thanks to Mindy, Dwayne, Stephanie for all of the support they give us. They never say we have a bad question. We always feel like we can ask them any questions, and they're always forthcoming with an incredible response. So Taryn and I are going to just go over the infancy. We're very much in the infancy of this grant project, and however, with COVID-19, it's kind of put us really in the forefront. So there's certain aspects of the grant that we've actually have moved very quickly on, and we'll be going forward to revise as we go work throughout the 2 years of the grant. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to just start out with is a little bit of the rationale of the project. And so basically, we really want to leverage industry credentials of value to really support students' ability to employability. And not only employability, but to have advancement in their careers and economic opportunities for advancement. So the reskilling and the upskilling opportunities. We also want to be really intentional about equity. Right now, when we look at the pandemic, let me put this in a context of Houston. So in April, May, when the unemployment in the Houston region was at its highest because of the pandemic, we had around 350,000 unemployed Houstonians at that time. And we know that the impact was larger in various populations, from the Black, the Latinx, and the low income, as well as those without any sort of education attainment, like may have only had a high school degree or not even a high school degree. And now, though, when as we're moving into 2021, Houston's recovered about 50% of that unemployment, but that means we still have around 170,000 unemployed. And from what I've been hearing, many of those folks that are unemployed probably will not go back to their original jobs. And therefore, they will need opportunities for reskilling and upskilling. And many of them, if we look at, for example, the Strata education data that they've been doing these surveys since, many folks, I think it's around 60%, said that they didn't really want to go into a degree sort of program. They really want a short training type of program. And so industry credentials of value will play an important role, I believe, not only now, but in the future, for helping folks get back to work, but also those that are unemployed, underemployed, get career advancement opportunities. So we really see that this is going to have a very long-lasting economic and social value to our graduates, whether they're graduating with a certificate or associate, but also if they're obtaining industry recognized credential of value. Next slide, please.
Good morning. We are currently in a time where we're constantly being blitzed, in particular potential students, on career pathways, career opportunities, or different forms of higher education that can, we see the commercials where, in 6 months, if you enroll with us, we can change your life if you get XYZ credentials. So that's why it was so important for us to, one, define what an industry credential of value was, and also how do we attach integrity to an industry value of credentials. So as you can see here, we have a very basic definition, but the main part of this is for licensures and certifications or any form of credential to, one, be recognized by industry, basically meaning that industry has to believe that this particular organization that allocates this credential is the gold standard in regards to what industry needs are, so students can be successful when they come to industry and on our side of the house in education, so we can make sure that we provide the competencies and the resources for our students to be successful. And so it was very important for us to attach ourselves to with WorkCred, to partner with them. WorkCred's mission is just simply to enhance workforce through a credentialing system for all parties involved, industry, students, as well as higher ed, so we can all be in one accord, so we can understand how to efficiently and effectively understand how the credentialing system works. So we borrowed their lovely graphic here, and as you can see, under the umbrella of credentials, it's certificates, it's badges, it's degrees, it's certifications, and it is licensures. For example, at HCC, this project will center on 2 types of certifications. One is program-based, which is the one that most of us are familiar with, the ones where a student has to graduate from a program in order to even sit for a licensure or a certification examination. And then the other one that isn't that familiar is course-based, where you either can get some form of credential through one course or through a series of courses. And in some cases, they're embedded in the courses and embedded in their certificate programs, but sometimes they're not in the award even. So those are just kind of some of the initiatives and even some of the barriers that we have identified. But again, it's just we just really want to highlight the fact that credentials of value, they just need to be validated through industry. And we all just need to kind of be a learning community of continuing to advocate for each other to ensure that the students gets, a credential that has some integrity, that provides them with upward mobility in regards to employability and even transferring into a 4-year institution. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Taryn. So before we get into the actual work involved, I would really like to focus on the big overarching desired results, outcomes that we hope this work will achieve, and not only for now, but continuously. So ultimately, and we do know that these are ambitious, but we do believe in them. And we, after we go through the work that we're doing, I think it'll become clear how we will be able to achieve these outcomes. So we want to increase students' ability to attain these industry credentials of value across all the workforce programs in the 16 career clusters. So we want to make sure that the ones that they're obtaining are of value that will get them into a high wage and in-demand career opportunity. And then additionally, we want to increase completion of certificates and associate degrees, fulfilling some of the 60 by 30 tax goals. And we're going on the assumption, and part of the research that we're going to be doing is that the programs that do have these industry credentials of value embedded in them will have a higher retention rate and higher graduation rate for certificates and associate degrees. And then finally, of course, employability in key high wage, high skill, and in demand industry. We're looking both at the greater Houston area, but also the South Rio Grande Valley regions, since one of our partners is Texas Southmost College. Okay, next slide, please.
So to kind of keep us focused, there are 5 phases of this grant project. All of them are dynamic. 1, scanning the environment to support data-driven decisions. Simply, our system of HCC is massive. The concept of credentials and licensures is massive, and it's something that's really dynamic. So it's really easy for us to kind of work in silos. But so we're just trying to identify all parties, internal and external parties, and then from there, come up with a system where we can get data. Like, for example, right now I'm doing what I call the tour of licensures and credentials along with accreditations, because the two, in most cases, are married. So from there, we have the discussions with faculty, then I follow up with them via a survey style tool where I ask them to verify and validate the certificates that we are, licensures and certificates that we already have. And if there are some new ones that you plan on pursuing, let me know. And also to asking some probing questions from this. You know, like simple things like, are you doing practice exams? Or there are barriers or challenges for your students to even take the exam? So by us collecting all this kind of data, it kind of helps us paint a picture of the value of licensures and credentials, and also just different trends. So we're excited to find out what we think we know, and most importantly, what we don't know. And in phase 2, we have the alignment of industry accepted standards and competencies, because in some cases, our curriculum may not line up with industry. It happens all the time in higher ed. Our students are graduating, but guess what? The curriculum is outdated. And keep in mind, we'll talk more in detail about this later on in the presentation. And in phase 3, communicating and marketing industry credentials of value within completion pathways. As we know, we are at a time now where you can't market enough, but the mode and the medium that you use is everything. Students, and most of us, we just don't have time to go through an entire college's website. So we have to be really creative. And in some cases, we may have to steal from social media how with the algorithm, they're constantly blitzing us with things of interest. And in phase 4, making all credentials transparent. Just, again, letting students know this is what we offer at our institutions. When you complete certain awards, you have this particular pathway, but we have to explicitly state it. We can't just assume that they know, or when they go to the next phase of their life, whether in industry or pursuing a higher form of education, they are going to pursue it via osmosis. I think we just have a really big responsibility to be as transparent as possible, and just and prepare them as well. And phase 5 is designing a model and share statewide, multi-regionally. One of the best things about working in higher education most of the time is that you don't have to recreate the wheel. So we're hoping to create a model. We're not quite sure what that looks like, because as you've heard, we're not quite sure the level of data that we will obtain, and most importantly, what that data will really show. But this designing a model that can be used statewide, where we all can just kind of see different trends, and just basically just see all facets of what's happening in licensures and credentials of value. Next slide, please.
Whoops. I'll go ahead and add to the previous slide just a couple points. So for the 5 phases, we were taking on an approach of a plan, do, study, act type. So we really wanted to, first, when you see this phase 1, which we're in now, very much involved in now, we really wanted to dig into plan and study so that we had all of that data. And then, so here we wanted to give everyone a good picture of the whole process of the 2 years in which we're going through these different 5 phases. And we believe these 5 phases, they're very interrelated, even though we're going to be looking at them individually. Taryn and I are going to go over each phase. They're very much interwoven at the end of the day. And so we believe when we get to phase 5 and creating the scalable framework, that these type of, the way that we've devised it here for the grant will be very much embedded into the framework towards the end. Next slide, please.
So as we stated a couple of times, the first thing we're going to do is scan the environment to get the actual data so we can really understand the landscape of credentials of value at HCC. So of course, that's having conversations with faculty and making these data requests, and then probably coming back after we get the data, asking more probing questions. And again, looking at the data, basically scrubbing it. And for example, if we see trends where with populations of people of color, they are continuing to pursue credentials of value that are low wage with no upward mobility, then that's a red flag for us at our institution to kind of figure out what are some of the barriers that particular student population has to obtaining other types of credentials that offer better salaries and so forth. And again, one of the parts that we're looking forward to is disaggregating the data. You know, it's like when you hear on TV, they say 100% of people say that this hair dye works. If you ask 2 people and they say, yeah, it's a wonderful hair dye. Yes, it's a 100%. So again, we're just really want to really get into the weeds of this and really try to understand some trends. Or for example, why is it only 4 students completing something in a health sciences program? Is it simply, lack of preparation and practice exams? Do we need to go back to the drawing board with labs? Is it something going on are they not utilizing different student services aspects that the HCC offer? So it's just really scrubbing the data and really kind of getting into the weeds and just really bringing in all the stakeholders to just have some conversations also about what's happening in the industry as well. And also another important one for us is the data sharing agreements. Many of our programs, they do have access to the data, and then some don't, like for example, with those that get the program-based credentials. Sometimes they don't get that from those agencies. And as we all know, once the student leaves an institution, it's very difficult to keep up with them. So it would just be even interesting to see once they leave us, what other pathways do they pursue, or will they need to come back to us for continuing education? So again, we're going to go back and just nurture as many relationships as possible with industry and also the folks that provide the credentials to really understand the landscape. Next slide, please.
For phase 2, what we want to do now that we've established a baseline and we have the data, we really want to review now the curriculum for some of these industry credentials of value. So we're going to drill down and select and identify so many of them to do. Because right now, for example, in the preliminary research, we have around 150 different industry recognized certifications and occupational license offered at HCC. So we're not going to be able to do all of them in the very beginning, but we definitely want to select those that are considered of high value and will align to high wage and in-demand occupations. In the beginning to do curriculum alignment mapping, but we want to make sure that they're aligned with industry validated competencies in order to reveal the strengths, any redundancies or possible gaps. Sure, the programs teach the skills graduates need to know to be successful to perform the occupation when they graduate, and to align the awards with the value of those industry credentials together. So right now, for example, many of the course-based industry recognized credentials are embedded into the certificates or the associate degrees, but we don't necessarily look at them outside of that. Now, what we've started doing right now is looking at bundling some of these in micro credentials. So we want to take those, if there are 3 courses that are embedded in a certificate, take those 3 courses out that are relevant to that industry credential of value and try to rebundle that so that students can accelerate and fast track to that credential, that industry credential, as they're working on the certificate or associate degree. And that's one of the different ways we will try to market. And that's one of the ways that, because of COVID, we're trying to speed up this opportunity. One of the, and it's not here, but one of the aspects of the work we're doing too is that we really want to look at federal policy and how we can become advocates for encouraging our Congress and our representatives to reauthorize WIOLA, for example, and think of short-term certificates of embedding those opportunities in there for short-term Pell or transparency of data. So we really want to be advocates from a federal level too, to help with this process. So the other aspect is that we want to make sure that we support all faculty, full and part-time, that they have the necessary credentials in which we're offering to students. So that's part of the work we'll be doing. And then as well, we have the marketable skills aligned with each of our awards, but we haven't expressed them in the sense of industry recognized credentials of value. And so we're going to be exploring that opportunity with phase 2. Next slide, please.
In phase 3, it is the communicating and marketing the industry credentials of value within completion pathways. So for our students, we're kind of envisioning a campaign where we want this information to be in as many places as possible for faculty, staff, and student usage. And so again, we'll partner with our partners. Will also kind of do some research to see what other institutions are doing, but we want, it's something this complex, you have to try to think of simple modes and mediums and make it visually appealing as well. So for example, the same way that we market to our students or even adult students, we would have to maybe do something different for dual credit students, because sometimes they don't even understand the higher education language, especially when you start talking about articulation and things like that. So just definitely kind of working with our faculty, working with industry. So all our target populations within our student communities, we can ensure that they understand the value of credentials, what they are, how to utilize them, and most importantly, if you are have a particular interest in a particular field of study, identifying what those credentials of value may be, and while you're pursuing your certificate or associate's degree, or maybe not either one, still understanding that you have the opportunity to pursue it and how, and most importantly, kind of seeing the big picture and even connecting them to other disciplines. So thinking about things like consumer guides, like a one page, like for example, TEA has these resources in different career fields where it's just a one page. It just gets straight to the point. What that occupation is, what credential you need to obtain, and most importantly for students, the salary opportunity. So just, in this regard, less is more, but again, kind of blitzing them with it so it kind of sticks in their head, and most importantly, kind of creating a new culture at HCC, where in addition to talking about all the other fantastic awards that we offer, not leaving out credentials of value, especially in programs that normally don't market them. Like for example, things for example, things outside of the health sciences, for example, things in manufacturing, things in graphic design, those types of things. Next slide, please.
Okay, so on the phase 4, so we're now towards the very end of the 2 years that we really want to look at how to make these credentials much more transparent. So we want to look into the possibility of credential engine, credential transparency initiative, and work with them to see what we recommend for not just HCC, but many of us within Texas. And I believe, there's all other folks, other colleges already using Credential Engine, for example. And so just learning from each other in that respect, as well as explore possibilities for us having more conversations like we are right now of being learners from everybody. So just yesterday, and Natalia, just listening to Natalia now, these 2 days, it's been incredible learning of all of the work that's in motion of our colleagues.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to let you guys know you have about 3 minutes.
Okay, that's great. And so we're all interconnected and it's relevant to what we're doing. So next slide, we'll go. It's pretty, the rest is pretty fast.
Yeah, so ideally, the major outcome of all of this is just basically creating a model showcasing the successes and just strategies about how particular credentials of value can be utilized in the different pathways in Texas. And continuing just to kind of work with our partners to kind of keep that up to date and relevant. Next slide, please.
So to kind of wrap it up here, we wanted to give you a visual of part of the work that we're doing is looking at the ecosystem of industry credentials of value at HCC and all the different divisions and units that are involved with industry credentials of value. And right now, many of us are working in silos, but whereas obviously we want to bring that data so that we can have a shared resource, shared responsibility, and work together much smarter. Next slide.
Okay, and now this one just simply showcases us as one big happy family. Everybody that touches credentials of value at HCC, all of it now being streamlined. We filled in all the gaps. Students are no longer going through advising and saying, hey, I got a cosmetology license in high school, and it kind of falling on deaf ears. Now just kind of connecting all of that together, being one big happy family, and just basically creating a system that encompasses credentials of value. And as you can see, it's as we all know, it's just so many different departments at our institutions, and we probably could add about 5 more. But again, that's the fun part about this project is that the discovery of it all.
And
next slide,
finally,
please.
On the next slide is just this gives a kind of an overview of our timeline for all of these phases, and so you can see that they often overlap. So we're in phase 1 right now. And we hope to start phase 2 shortly, even though they'll be overlapping. And then in the fall, start phase 3, and then into 2022, start 4 and 5. And next slide. And that's it. Thank you for the nudge, Stephanie.
Thank you. We're just really passionate.
Thank you, Tom and Sharon. I think we're ready for questions now. Is that right, Stephanie?
Yes, ma'am. Ask away.
All right.
We have nothing currently in the Q&A and chat, so please go right ahead, Tricia.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and ask the first question, and this will be for Natalie and Rebecca. In regards to your program, working with high school students on attaining the level 1 to level 2 certificates, do you have a plan for tracking those students' persistence, through completion of the associate at ACC or other institutions after they graduate from high school?
Sorry, I had to get my speakers on. Yes, that is something that we are working on now currently to start tracking. One of the other opportunities that we do hope to work with is not only our ACC Career Scholars, but also Capital Ideal, which also will help us maintain a tracking system with our students after they leave us. They maintain 2-year contact with students and workforce contact with them. So we do hope to work with them as a partnership, as well as our career scholars, so that when our students graduate and move forward after graduation, then when they're in the industry or continuing their education, we will be able to see how they're doing, where they're at, and where they're continuing, if they stay in the trade or if they move to another trade or if they go further in their education, so that we can see. And my hope and goal is to have them come back and be my ambassadors for our program, and so we can utilize them later on.
Okay,
Is there anything you want to add, Rebecca? Sorry.
No, I think Natalie covered it all.
Okay, thank you. And one more question in regards to your program. You mentioned support for families and the benefit of really engaging the families, with the students in the program. And during your introduction, so one of the things that I shared was your work with providing resources to students as well as their families so that they could focus on, just completing their program successfully. What type of resources are you making available to them? And is it through community partners or program initiatives on campus?
We utilize a lot of the ACC resources. And I don't know, Rebecca, you can speak more to the Verizon grant that's available, because I know you're more familiar with that. But we push our students to utilize the ACC resources, our support center, of course, the library. But with the COVID, the Verizon relief grant, Rebecca, can you speak to that?
Yes, we we did receive a grant from the Verizon Foundation, and it allows us to help any high school students who need assistance, and it's not restricted funds, so we can help them pay an electric bill to keep their electricity on. We can help them with internet, with textbooks, with food, anything that they need or that they need to support them and help them with their schooling, we can assist them with. So we're really happy to get those funds.
Wonderful. And I have a question for Tom and Taryn in regards to the industry credentials being embedded in the program. Are the licensing fees, exam fees for credentials that require a license exam embedded into your program tuition as well for students?
Yeah, it depends of which program it may be. And right now, often programs have the option to request Perkins funding to help cover exam costs. And so that's one of the aspects of this grant, is to look at how we're leveraging those type of funds to make sure we're leveraging them appropriately and across the board.
Thank you. Sherry, are there any other questions?
Nothing in our queue right now, though I encourage anyone to certainly put something in the Q&A. I had a question for our colleagues from HCC. I'm wondering, this is an impressive plan and a very comprehensive one, which is now compressed because of COVID-19, as you said, the urgency of doing this right. I'm wondering, along with these national registries of credentials that you all are tapping into, have you looked at some of our homegrown Texas work as well? I'm thinking in particular of Calibrate through TSTC.
Yeah, I'm glad Sherry, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, we use Calibrate. And so if when it's time to do the alignment, if there's not already industry validated competencies available, we plan to use Calibrate for that purpose. We also plan to use Texas Workforce Investment Council. If they have any TSS already recognized, like NIMS is in there, for example, we will encourage to go through the recognition of TSS and be recognized by the TWIC too. So we want to incorporate that as well. Thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, then I will turn it back over to Mindy.
All right, excellent presentations. Thank you. Thank you both colleges. We will now go into a break. Let's see, we have scheduled 10:10 to 10:25. Why don't we go ahead and resume at 10:20? And that will give us just about that same amount of time. We're running a little bit early. So we will see you back at 10:20. And Stephanie will be monitoring this side while you're breaking. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I just want to give you a gentle reminder that we are going to kick back off here in a couple of minutes, promptly at 10:20. So I hope everyone was able to grab something to drink, get up and stretch your legs, and we will get started off with our next panel here in a couple minutes.
And welcome back, everyone. It is 10:20. We will go ahead and get started. We will have our second panel for the day and final panel for the leadership presentation event. This panel will focus on equitable access and student supports. It will be moderated by Dr. Kevin Peak. Dr. Peak is professor of economics at South Texas College. Kevin, I will give it to you to introduce our panelists.
Thank you so much. Welcome back from the break, colleagues. The first presentation for this panel is titled Designing Needs Assessment and Stakeholders Forums to Address Special Populations at Temple College. This project is directed by Dr. Leslie Keeling Olson. Dr. Keeling Olson is a director of Perkins Grants and professor of criminal justice at Temple College. She has been at Temple College for 19 years and has been working on Perkins Grants for 15 years. She currently holds two Perkins Leadership Grants. One is focused on WECM, while the other one is specific to special populations. So with no further ado, I'll turn the floor over to Dr. Leslie Keeling Olson.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, and thank you so much for watching all of our presentations today. I tend to know exactly what I want to say when I'm presenting, but please bear with me today as I read few of my notes during some of my presentations. I was pretty adamant that I didn't want to miss anything. I am blessed to be working on two projects that I feel very passionate about. Specific to this grant, I would like to lay a little bit of groundwork before I move forward. First, this is the second year, and after hindsight, I would have changed the title of this grant to Special Populations. Where do we start, and then what is next? The title is really great for the first year, but it really doesn't kind of show us where we're going. So as you see my title, please bear with me. Second, I wanted to tell you, I tend to pick themes in all of my presentations. And for this presentation, footsteps just really spoke to me because we're all walking a really new path and walking hand in hand with our colleagues, our administrators, and students with unique or special circumstances, AKA special populations. Next slide, please. At first, I didn't think it was necessary to provide this information, but I've come to realize that there are a multitude of individuals that are either new to Perkins who are seeking clarity or information, but also I found that we all need to take every opportunity to remind our faculty, our administrators, our student support services, and all others that work at our institution the specifics behind the terms we use. Why are we requesting the data? And why at times we are very, very adamant about staying true to these terms, specifications, and accountability. That being said, before we leave this slide, please know this is definitely a work in progress concept for me. Baby steps turn into larger steps, but still definitely a work in progress. I quickly was able to memorize the 9 different categories, but I often need to come back to the original specifications, so I don't rely on terms that others may broaden or define differently. Let me be very specific about some of my steps in evolving aspects. I found out recently that many of these categories are self-populated in the Temple College Elution system based on their financial aid application. I learned something different every week about how aspects of these requirements work, how the data is collected, or how we need to attempt to capture the data, and what I need to do as a Perkins Basic Grant Director to make sure that I utilize and work with my CTE leaders and faculty to have performance improvement and evaluation plans in place that provide information so that Temple College can show accountability and make meaningful progress to improvement. I wanted to make sure that I put the accountability information in there because I think sometimes we tend to get caught off and think about more about the special populations, but we have to remember we need the data. The data will be important for our accountability. I think we all find out we are making steps forward, missteps as we learn, and ultimately walking together as we start identifying, hopefully, best practices, impactful performance improvement and evaluation plans for our special populations. Next slide, please. Through all of my Perkins leadership grants, I strive to provide something that will be helpful to my Perkins colleagues across the state. So before I forget, let me go ahead and tell you that on the TACTE website, TACTE.org, we've loaded Perkins resources. If you go to this page and scroll down to the middle, you will see a Perkins button. If you click on it, you will find a multitude of resources from all of this leadership grants and a specific category for Perkins special populations. Here's a quick hint. If you click on any of the links, look at the bottom left because it will download the files for you. During the first year, I made some very baby steps to try and address special populations. I, like many other colleagues in the field, I was in a little bit of a panic as I tried to figure out how to identify, meaning capture the data, to address and help our special populations. The grant partners for this Perkins Leadership Grant spent a significant amount of time working together to develop a CLNA template guide specific to special populations, a resources and possibility guide of services, some unique to Temple College area and others that are statewide, a list of ideas and strategies to overcome barriers for special populations, and additional Central Texas community resources. If you open the resources guide, there's a tab for each special population category. So the resources are specific to each category and not general to all special populations. I realize that many of you do not have the same services or assistance available that I do in Central Texas, but I thought a starting place of a list of possibilities might trigger something to remember or help find resources that your institution might not be aware of. I would be remiss if I did not share with you that I owe a significant thanks to Stephanie, Dwayne, Sherry, and Mindy, who over a Christmas break double-checked the resources guide a multitude of times to make sure that we had everything in sync before we released it to the field, because we all felt we needed to release it as soon as possible. Before I leave the first year, I'd also like to share with you a few other things that are unique to this grant. There's really no way possible from me, my CJ perspective, to know and have awareness of the multitude of resources. So I'm blessed to have a social worker that helped us with the guides. Before this grant, Dr. Shelley Pearson, Brent Colwell, and Dr. Guzman Trevino, my colleagues at Temple College and my leadership at Temple College, were in the middle of implementing the Temple College Circle of Support. So during the planning phases for the Circle of Support and developing this grant, we knew a social worker was a priority. And this grant includes some funding for the Temple College social worker. Diane Loom helps our students and manages our Circle of Support. This resource is invaluable to have on our campus because Perkins assistance is limited. However, our students with unique and/or special circumstances, also known as special populations, need holistic services as a complement to Perkins Child Care Assistance, Perkins Travel Assistance, Perkins textbook resources, or CTE-specific equipment. Hopefully at this time, if you've never heard the term students with unique or special circumstances, I want to tell you that through the first year, we found out that students either did not want to be labeled with the term special populations, or they didn't understand what we were talking about. My grant partners came up with this term to truly describe what are our special populations. Since I have limited time, please email or call me if you'd like to know more about the Temple College Circle of Support. I also need to tell you one more thing. The first year included consulting funds, and we utilized the National Alliance for Partnership and Equity, NAEP. Just like my fellow presenters, we've alluded to COVID had an impact, and what was originally designed as a NAEP workshop turned into NAEP virtual presentations to lay some groundwork and understanding of how to help CTE special populations. As I finished the first year, I was not completely sure how to have a robust information as I felt have as robust of information as I felt came out of the first year. So the rest of my presentation will tell you about the specifics listed in the slide about year 2. Next slide, please. The first CLNA process was definitely a learning process. I knew that we would need information on how to improve. The reality is that our next CLNA is going to be here much sooner than later. So as I start thinking about the next CLNA, I know y'all probably didn't want to hear that, but we need to. My grant partners helped to develop the above survey. This provides us a baseline of what helped, what might be opportunities for change. And please bear with me for a second, because I'd be remiss if I didn't share with you here some of the survey information. So in answer to survey question number 1, 82% of the people who responded reported some type of self-report forms, 24 indicated intake forms, and 21 individuals indicated individual student contact. Please note, individuals chose a multitude of ways they were attempting to identify special populations. So along with it, some have added institutional information to the Apply Texas application. Others have online surveys, and others have online forms. The response to question number 2. The following concerns were expressed. Students are hesitant or reluctant to identify. Students do not feel comfortable, and the term special populations doesn't always make sense to them. Responses to question number 3. 3 specific items of interest came out of this survey. Number 1, the network of individuals representing the various stakeholders provided a better understanding of the needs of special populations. Second, stakeholders need opportunities to explain their resources and provide context. And 3, some institutions have services available, whereas a multitude indicate this was their area of weakness and they wanted to continue and develop this specific area of Perkins. Responses to number 4. Obviously, COVID had a significant impact on this process. However, many indicated this was just a baseline, and the next CLNA provided opportunities to substantially expand those involved in the process, and more data will provide for a redesign of assessing and addressing the data, the gaps, and the weaknesses. Some key suggestions include have smaller stakeholder groups before a larger group meeting. Utilize multiple talk sessions and focus group sessions. 3, face-to-face sessions, including virtual sessions, provide the opportunity for in-depth discussion and assess specifics to special populations. Overall, the stakeholders process can be improved by diversifying the group and their representation. Finally, if surveys are used, it's essential to have a broad survey participation and actively seek student voice in the process. Responses to number 3. Information from the survey included addressing the following concerns or issues before the next CLNA process. Provide information and education to all stakeholders about the term special populations and what is needed for Perkins related to this group. Address unconscious biases within the group. Provide robust data analysis and evaluate gaps based on the data. and implement a community survey to provide a broader understanding and consensus of how to focus the funding. Share the information with those across campus in a concise format, which will help guide their budget request. And finally, a multitude of individuals specified that limited funding impacted their ability to provide holistic services. Responses to question number 6, limited ability to obtain information and getting feedback in a virtual environment, less student engagement because students did not want to disclose information over the phone or email, and many services are used to face-to-face interaction and they struggle to go virtual. The CARES Act funding became more important to students than smaller Perkins help. Responses to question number 7, many said basic application ? And most individuals indicate not yet. And finally, to number 7, funding items include textbook loaner programs, child care assistance, transportation assistance, tutoring, marketing, assistive technology, interpretive services, CTE equipment, and/or program requirements. This information is in the process of being incorporated to the current CLNA template and guide so that we provide an updated template and guide. Additionally, this information has gone out through the Perkins update and through Mindy and Stephanie to all the Perkins basic grant directors. However, if you need another copy of it, please don't hesitate to let me know. As I alluded to earlier, I didn't really see clear steps or a clear direction on where I was going to go with year 2 when an email came across my desk from NAEP. They were requesting applications to participate in a NAEP Academy. I immediately thought this would be a great opportunity to provide training, and I thought it would be a unique possibility of a train-the-trainer model. I called Mindy and Stephanie, and I have to give credit to Mindy for taking my idea and running with it. I could not apply, but the Higher Education Coordinating Board could. Mindy developed the team, developed and submitted the application, and then received the above acceptance notification. Primarily, the team that participated in the NAEP Equity Leadership Academy were members from across the Higher Education Coordinating Board. However, the team also needed an outside representative and a student representative. I joined the team, and then Isaac, a Temple College student that represents special population, also joined. These are steps that I never ever anticipated, but I cannot truly explain to you in this short session how impactful, informative, and truly eye-opening this information was to me. The NAEP Leadership Academy was a cohort, and so there was a multitude of states, and it was a multitude of planning, as our NAEP leaders had all of us clear our calendars, had all the different states, which included team members that ranged from 5 to 8. Each state also included a student voice. So we walked through what would be these 4 major areas as we talked about adopting an equity lens. Through the equity lens, it helped us really kind of fine tune and have conversations about what is our current culture? Where do we need to change our culture? How can we change our culture? Now, please know, these were 2-hour sessions and sometimes they extended on, and it wasn't just somebody talking at us. It was really them giving the framework for us to then talk one-on-one. At time periods, I was with other people outside the state as they gave me ideas, but then there was a lot of time that I spent involved with the Higher Education Coordinating Board team as we talked about both the Higher Education Coordinating Board and then other aspects of colleges, and then Isaac. Isaac just really put it to a perspective and provide us information that sometimes we never ever thought of, because we are at the teaching level, and through him at the student level, he truly had the ability to tell us what was frustrating, what was revealing, what was our assumptions that were truly wrong. So as we started to change how we looked at things, this then started giving us ideas on how we needed to address it to CTE and also in our CLNA. Now, please know, this was a holistic equity lens. So on the feedback with the NAEP Academy, they asked what could be done differently. And so although there is a CLNA and CTE focus, not everybody in our conversation was truly CTE administrators, or CTE was their priority because it was a cross section across the higher education coordinating board. So through that, we also talked about building institutional capacity in local education agencies, because the true desire of this leadership was academy is through the state needed to disseminate out. And so I know that Dr. Jackson alluded to it earlier as she started off this Perkins leadership grant presentations, and I suspect she'll allude to it again. But there are vast changes coming, and there's information as the higher education coordinating boards looks at things through a different lens. So they're building institutional capacity. They're also beginning to create communities. But then ultimately, this leadership academy was not about just, okay, here's your training, and we stick it in a notebook and we stick it on a shelf, but it's about taking out that training and disseminating across the state. So through all of these 2-hour sessions, we ultimately came about on what would be where we go and what we're going to do next. So here's some coming soon for you. My first idea was train the trainer. Now, let me tell you, there is no way that I am fit or anywhere close to being an expert on holistic equity and equity change. So please know the train the trainer model has been changed. I am now just fully developing my understanding of special populations. So when I say it's changed, you will soon in the very near future see a call for applications. We will take and have taken the grant funds, and we are coordinating with NAEP again. So NAEP is going to do another version of leadership equity and program improvement process for equity, what they call PIPE, to bring to our local teams. So through this, the call for applications will go out, and the grant will fund 5 to 6 colleges with 6 to 8 educators, around 40 participants. So there will be August training with NAEP and then a follow-up training. Again, then providing that information as we disseminate out through the field. Now, I know this is a special populations presentation, so I suspect you're going, she got a little off on special populations. So let me bring you back around. Although I am completely inadequate to do equity training from a holistic perspective for a vast amount of colleges, I really am getting better at understanding special populations. And this is where I'm comfortable in working on my next steps. So I'm in the process of working on 3 specialized webinars. When working with Stephanie, we identified that instead of webinar for each one, we could kind of put them into groups, and we could have short on-demand webinars where we could talk about what are things that are true barriers, or how do we need to provide equity when it comes to economically disadvantaged, out of workforce, or homeless. Our second on-demand webinar will definitely be for individuals with disabilities, single parents, single pregnant women, and English learners. And then our third webinar will be non-traditional gender, aged out of foster care, and youth with an active duty military. This information will be some research, some panel information that I'll bring in, but additionally some information that's on the NAEP website. So I again encourage you, if you haven't been on the NAEP website, they have a robust amount of resources and information. Through this grant also, we have another major opportunity. As I've worked through the grant and wanted to make sure I spent down, I realized that I had put a large amount of money in hopes that we would be able to attend the NAEP Summit. Well, the NAEP Summit in the past was about $495 per individual. So I again went back and got permission to through Stephanie and Mindy about, well, I have all this money set aside for registration, and if it's gone virtual, why don't we take care of advantage? So if you are a Perkins Basic Grant Director and you would like to attend the NAEP virtual training so that you have a strong understanding and can look at equity for your CTE population and for your special populations, please know I can pay for that registration fee. I know off the top of my head, I've already paid for about 10 to 15, but mind you, there's a large group of us and I have plenty of money to pay for everybody. So please, 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 if you're interested, send me an email and I will pay for your registration so that you can attend the NAEP Summit. So hopefully we walked a little bit full circle. And so I wanted to end here back where we are, which is our definitions and our reminder of accountability. as we have developed this grant, as I've wanted to kind of change the focus, I feel like we had some where do we start, but now I feel we have some where to go next. And so hopefully the where to go next will keep us in mind of where we're going and what we need to do. And I'm going to pause a second because Stephanie, I'm a little confused on my slide. Keep going. Keep going. Go back one. Did everybody see the NAEP? Stephanie, help me out real quick. Did everybody see the offer to attend NAEP?
I was advancing slides because you weren't asking me to, so I was trying to catch up with where you were
I
at.
apologize. I
That's
so
okay.
apologize. That is all my fault because you're exactly right. All right. So do I need to go back at all? I think I have a little bit of time if I need to go back and help clarify. Let's go back to, do we need to go back to coming soon?
Let's see here.
Stephanie, that is my fault. I so apologize. I forgot to do the next. All right, let's start real quick with coming soon. The coordinating board has an application ready, and the coordinating board will be releasing an application across the state. Please turn in the application as soon as possible. The application will provide leadership, equity, and the PIPE being program improvement for process for equity for 6 to 8 educators from 5 to 6 colleges across the state. This is all paid for by these leadership grant funds. The ultimate goal is, instead of a train the trainer, NAEP is going to provide some of the same information. NAEP is far more researched, and the scholars and the experts when it comes to equity training and equity information. So I encourage you, along with it, anybody that is accepted into this cohort group can also receive funding to attend the NAEP Summit. Go ahead and switch to the next slide. The train the trainer model wasn't going to work. I am definitely not an expert. But when it comes to the special populations, I'm working on a series of on-demand webinars. So these will be our on-demand webinars. Go ahead and go next slide, please. The grant has a significant amount of money that we set aside for registrations, assuming hopefully that we were going to go back and be able to send people to Washington and participate in the NAEP Summit. The NAEP Summit registration usually runs about $495, but now that it's virtual, it's a whole lot less expensive. And so it really opened up the opportunity for us to send and provide every Perkins Basic Grant Director an opportunity to attend the virtual summit. I think I've already received about 10 to 15 emails. So there's a whole lot of people. And if you're a Perkins Basic Grant Director, please send me an email so that I can pay for your registration, because this is definitely a baseline and provides us a springboard of different ideas and where we can go to help our special populations. Next slide. This brings me back full circle. And so forgive me, y'all, that I wasn't saying next and I got y'all all off a little bit, but I just want to stop here because these are our beginning steps, but these are our next steps, because the CLNA is right on top of us. We need to start the process again in the very, very near future. So hopefully the beginning steps set a baseline of what we can do, but hopefully we can springboard off of that and have a lot more information, data, and then some really specific performance improvement and evaluation plans that minimize barriers and helps us improve retention, placement, success, completion, all those things that are important to all of our CTE students, but more important to our special populations. I look forward to hearing from you in the question and answer session. And again, my apologies for not pushing the slide deck along. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dr. Keeling-Olson, for that excellent and informative presentation. The second presentation on the panel is on advancing completion by Austin Community College. Our two presenters are Natalia S. Almanza, Manager of Career Programs, and Rebecca Robinson Francis, Coordinator of High School Programs. Natalia is a Manager for Career Programs with Austin Community College. Her experience with ACC spans over 10 years in various departments. Natalia specializes in creating diverse workforce programs to help students gain a level 1, level 2 certificate while in high school in a high demand workforce area. She is responsible for creating partnerships with industry and community members to help provide internships and mentors to future employees. She also works to ensure students utilize resources that are available to them and their families so they can remain focused and successful while completing the program. Natalia is inspired by her coworkers who work tirelessly to provide excellent services to students and families in Central Texas and surrounding communities. When she has free time, she enjoys watching cartoons with her children and eating barbecue with her husband. Our second presenter, Rebecca Robinson, was the interim coordinator for high school career programs at Austin Community College. Rebecca has over 20 years in high school to college workforce pathways. She has been instrumental in promoting the creation of new departments for high school career programs that concentrate on certificates and degree-seeking pathways for high school students. These students are in multiple programs from ACC's career academies to PTEX. Rebecca is delighted that Natalia has taken over the career programs, allowing her to take a step back and concentrate on other initiatives. So without any further ado, I'll turn the floor over to our two presenters.
Hello again, everyone. I think it was Jerry yesterday who had talked about us being like at the Academy Awards and doing a costume change. Kind of feel like I should have done the same, but it's okay. Thank you again for allowing me to present on our next grant. We are excited again to have the opportunity to, one, not only have the foundation to create and support our career academies, but to also advance and create more completion pathways for our academies. So if you would please, the next slide. So this is going to be like deja vu because we really formatted this one to kind of excel our academies. We really wanted to have the first grant that really kind of built our foundation, and this one was more of the continuation for it. So to review again, our academies are dual credit courses in high demand workforce areas in which high school students can obtain a level 1-2 certification that would allow them to enter into the workforce directly after high school. We work to create stackable programs so students can continue their education after graduation. With this grant, we really wanted to focus on advanced manufacturing and automotive technology, as we feel these would be big areas of growth. We utilized funding with this particular grant to help fund students in a different way than we did with our first grant that was available to us. So with this grant, we were able to utilize with this set, like as you see in this example, how we talk about it being stackable and how the students are able to complete the certified production tech exam. Well, with this funding, we are able to we were able to pay for the examination fee for our students currently enrolled in this program, which is a huge benefit. It's about $45 the exam and the other fees associated. So it comes out to about $105 per student. So it's actually a huge cost saver for our students. Not only are they able to obtain the certification, but they're also not having to pay for this fee. The schools are really appreciative of it because it's also money that they're not having to try to figure out how they're not having to worry about how they're going to fund this for their students. So we're super excited that we're able to provide this. Another huge benefit of it is we are also able to provide the textbooks for the students. Our department with manufacturing has been wonderful. They will be presenting later, but they have been wonderful in that they are really looking at more of textbooks that are, online educational resources so that students are not having to worry so much about the cost of it. And with this grant, granted, we are able to purchase them for it, but to be able to utilize this and other resources for them has been hugely beneficial and impactful for them. Next slide, please. So again, here's our list of our academies, but for this second grant specifically, the advancing completion, we really wanted to focus on the expansion of automotive and advanced manufacturing. Again, staying with the purpose of strategically placing our academies in economically and underrepresented areas, we are focusing on an automotive technology program with Bastrop ISD. We really felt this would help build connections within the community where our students can take classes in their community at their high school, but also be able to work in their community. Bastrop is booming, it's growing, and the automotive industry there is actually is growing more and more. And so we're looking at having the students who don't have to worry about commuting into Austin or commuting to other surrounding areas to have to look for a job or find a place to work, being able to provide them with the skills and tools to be able to work in their hometown and be able to stay home and help support family is a huge benefit for them. Our manufacturing academy is housed at our ACC Highland campus. Having a central location gives us the opportunity to recruit from surrounding schools such as Northeast High School, McCallum High School, as well as Maynard Del Valley, which is not far off. So we, and actually both of them are very interested in participating. We have currently a few students from Del Valley. And so we are very excited to have a central location that students and schools can get to. So we feel like this has been able to open doors so that we can serve a good population and help them filter in. Both of these programs are TSI waived, and which makes them very attractive to many districts. As I said in my previous presentation, being TSI waived is very instrumental in programs such as workforce, because it helps students understand that they don't have that barrier of needing to pass a test to get in. These students can come in, and then if they do well and they work hard, and we provide the resources and support to ensure that they do well and work hard, then we help them work to become TSI complete before they complete. Or if they're not completely 100% TSI complete, then we work with other departments in ACC to complete getting them TSI prep, as well as tested, so that way when they graduate or right after they graduate, they can move on and complete their associate's degree with our college. The manufacturing program is 4 semesters, and students begin as a junior. So we work really well with recruitment and getting our sophomores ready to understand that, hey, you're about to enter. The automotive program has some flexibility in which we can do in 4 semesters, in which they can begin as juniors. But if they choose to, we can actually spread it out and work to being able to utilize some articulation credit. So we can begin students, if they choose, in freshman or even sophomore year, which is beneficial to high schools in that they can maneuver their schedules a little bit more, and they don't feel like they have to compact a lot of classes. Because our courses are longer in instructional minutes, we're able to stretch them out, and they don't feel like they have to, put a whole 2 classes in together at once. We're able to utilize the scheduling a little bit more when we stretch it out. Next slide, please. As with our other grant, we focused on wraparound services to guide our students from start to finish, and in the course and after if needed. One major objective with the Advancing Completion Grant is to increase enrollment in special populations. We believe we do this by offering this wraparound support that is tailored to students to ensure they are successful. The 2 biggest benefits in this grant will be the partnership we create with the industry partners for mentors and internships. Having students completely supported by not only our staff, like coordinators, but the industry staff at the industry partners we have, helps students feel like they belong in these areas. The connections that they make with these mentors and with that internship will speak louder than words itself. As I stated in my previous presentation, our current coordinator has been so instrumental at helping us establish our mentor program with our manufacturing academy. ARMA, Austin's Regional Manufacturing Association, has been great at rounding up mentors from various partners. We have had people from NXP, Samsung, and I believe Tito's in various positions, from HR to actual fab techs. And we actually have had more mentors this semester than we actually had students. So we are excited to utilize them this coming fall when we do have more students enroll with us. Students are meeting monthly with their mentor to get to know them and to see what it is like in their areas of industry. Once our part-time AMA or our part-time Advanced Manufacturing Academy coordinator is hired, one of their main responsibility will be to create an internship bridge, so that way we can work with these partners directly, so that we can have something for our students to either do over the summer or even during their senior year. Next slide, please. So with the first grant, we were able to hire a full-time project coordinator. With this grant, we looked at hiring 2 part-time coordinators because the distance was something that we really wanted to give a break. Bastrop and our Highland campus are farther apart, so having 2 specific people made more sense. So we're looking to hire 2 part-time coordinators that will oversee their area specifically. Due to our current hiring freeze with AC and actually last week's literal freeze, this process has taken a little bit longer than we had hoped, but we should be hopefully interviewing next week, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have our 2 candidates in place after spring break. They will both work to maintain their own career readiness calendars and maintain events with our district partners. They will also conduct information sessions with CTE teachers, students, and high school counselors. They will also work with our other CP or other career programs coordinators to conduct monthly emails, to guide students to online workshops and presentations for, again, resume writing, interview practice, how to complete a job application, making sure they're dressing for the position that they are applying to, and to become the employee that these employers want. Another main focus of their position is to advise these students specifically to obtain their level certification. These coordinators will work even closer with these specific departments to keep students informed of updates in the industry and possible job opportunities. I believe we will continue to work with the program maps that the departments have created, as we have found them to be very beneficial. I also believe that they help build a stronger connection with these departments, and they help us with our degree audits and with substitutions as needed. So I really feel that they've been a great benefit, and I hope to keep that relationship going. Our coordinators will also continue to give support to faculty in these designated areas, and will give the tutors and will help guide the tutors to ensure our students have all the resources needed to be successful. With this grant as well, we will be able to hire, as I stated previously, these 2 part-timers will work to create internships and mentorships specifically for automotive and Bastrop and our advanced manufacturing academy. They will work to build a bridge in which our students can receive even more support outside of the classroom walls from people in the industry to see what it's like to be on the job and to hear feedback of their work with an internship possibility. Our main goal being...
just wanted to let you know, you for planning purposes, you've got about 5 more minutes.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
Our main goal being to give these students the opportunity to engage themselves in the work they wish to enter, and to help them learn more from their mentors. The tutor's main responsibility will be to maintain office hours and to assist students. So we're looking to hire 2 to 4 tutors in both areas, so that way these students will be able to utilize their support. We do hope to utilize them as the face of our program, and to have them be at our showcases, so that we present ourselves as a unity of support to these students, and they will definitely be able to become comfortable with them. So we are relying heavily on these tutors to be our transmitter of information when they know our students are struggling, not only academically, but socially or financially. And like if issues are with the internet, hotspots, whatever may be going on at home, these students and these tutors can help provide that information to us as well. Next slide, please. So with COVID, our recruitment in the fall was hit super hard. Our manufacturing academy took a dip, as many were not sure about our in-person schooling. We started out with 15 recruits, 12 registered, and 10 are currently in our spring semester. The first course offered in the fall was fairly intense and for most of our students, but we have shipped out kits for the second semester, and they seem to be doing better. They're actually hands-on, and they seem to be more active and engaged. So I feel like this has been a huge benefit, where they're being more active. So we look forward to seeing the difference. Thanks to this grant, we are also working to gain virtual reality equipment, so students can do more and be able to utilize this in future classes. Again, our first semester was fairly rough, but we're optimistic that we're moving forward and we'll keep on going. We are also looking at hybrid models for our classes, whether it be for automotive and for manufacturing. Again, we are working closely with our Exploring to market the Manufacturing Academy. We really want to go out there and explain what manufacturing is. It's not Laverne and Shirley. I think a lot of our students think it's still that old school, the machine's going to go around, but we want our students to understand that it's a lot more than that, and to give our students the opportunity to see what these industries can do for them, both automotive and manufacturing. Again, working with exploring to help with the recruitment in middle school and to keep them engaged as we recruit them for our juniors and seniors. We have our first strong cohort at Bastrop currently this spring semester. The instructor is an in-house teacher, which I feel is very beneficial. He keeps our students excited and engaged in learning, and we are ready to get our coordinator out there to help them begin working on the internships and the mentors. And again, we are working with our ACC Career Scholars Department to help our students, and Capital Ideal to help our students receive scholarships after graduation. So if they choose to continue with their education after graduation, we can definitely push them to move forward. Next slide. And that is all I have. This is our first year, so we look forward to returning next year and presenting more of our growth. Rebecca, would you like to add anything?
I think you've covered everything perfectly. One thing I would like to point out, though, is I know you've heard Natalie mention the Manufacturing Academy, and we still have another presentation coming up from ACC on that. And what we've done is we utilize the old grant to help us sort of begin the process on the Manufacturing Academy. And then this grant is really going to help us to align that pathway more and to get the internships in place. And these are for dual credits high school students. And then the grant that Laura's going to talk about in a few minutes is more for adult students. So while there's some synergy, there's not really overlap. So I just kind of wanted to put that in perspective for everyone.
Thank you, Natalia and Rebecca, for that presentation. It will certainly be interesting to see how it evolves over the next year, and I know that I am looking forward to the next report. Our next presentation is entitled Go For It, Camps and Career Exploration by North Central Texas College. Our two presenters are Suzanne Savani and Manuel Trevino. Suzanne Savani is the Division Chair of Computer Science and Information Technology for North Central Texas College. With more than a dozen years of experience in corporate America and a decade each of running a small business and working in secondary education, she has been with NCTC for over 7 years. She's leading 2 U.S. Department of Labor grants focused on training graduates for high-demand careers in IT. Her degrees in business, computer science, and education, along with her diverse work background, help in leading a highly skilled team of professionals driven to prepare and support career-ready graduates who meet the technological needs of the businesses in our community. Our second presenter is Manuel Trevino. Manuel serves as a project coordinator for Go For It, Camps and Career Exploration Projects. He holds a master's in computer information systems. He started with NCTC in 2014 as a faculty instructor and is currently the lead faculty instructor for database management programs. Thank you both for being with us, and I know that we all look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Kevin. Can you hear me okay, Stephanie?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So if you would please advance to the next slide. So good morning. My name is Manny Trevino. I am the new North Central Texas College coordinator for our grant project, Go For IT, Camps and Career Exploration in Information and Industrial Technology. So this morning, I'll be providing an overview and rationale for our project, plus the project's objectives and deliverables. I'll also cover the project's planned activities that includes the scheduled dates and topics for each camp. A key word that I'd like for you to emphasize is exploration in that title. Next slide, please. So let's start with a little participation first. Raise your hands if you had a childhood. Of course, we all did. Some of those experiences we had in our childhood set the pathway to where we are today. Again, some of those experience influences on who we are, influenced us on who we are. So we're considering this project as an advancement for the future. This project is in direct alignment of our 60% by 2030 Texas goal. It strives to pique the interest of future students in CTE programs and engaging them to reach for a certificate or a degree. The project provides young students with the ability to explore CTE options and participate in dual credit CTE. So through the entire process, there's going to be a development of documentation and project management with effective and accurate record keeping and timely project reporting. This establishes an ideal model for the colleges and will serve as a toolkit development to facilitate replication by peer institutions. To help ensure this project takes root among other institutions, the year 2 activities will include outreach to and coordination with a community college in a rural and in a suburban setting. The goal is to engage in this process with 2 colleges that together represent small and medium institutions. So the camps will provide an enriching hands-on experience with CTE offerings for students who are at the middle school level, providing opportunities to explore potential related applications of their skills and strengths. It gives young students an opportunity for a clear picture of their post-secondary CTE pathways intentions, leading to decreased attrition and increased persistence along that pathway. Next slide, please. So again, we'll target middle school students going into 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, providing them with the CTE pathway to opportunities. Our camps will provide hands-on experience with instructors that teach the presented field. They will coach the students to successfully completing an inspiring task that will be ingrained in their minds, giving them an unforgettable experience. The students will help formulate the students' clear ideas, build interest in CET pathways that they may otherwise not pursue if they don't have knowledge of them. And they can also pursue these via dual credit programs, whether or not they've previously considered secondary, post-secondary education as a viable option. The camps will be highly promoted to populations underrepresented in these technical fields. Populations that include female students, minority students, low income, foster children, and other special population students who may have not otherwise pictured themselves in certain career fields. Next slide, please. The recruiting campers for the Go For It camps involve a collaborative effort between NCTC, various local ISD partners, and participating businesses and community organizations. To have that effective partner engagement, it will be very important to maintain regular communication and provision of promotional information, including the NCTC website, social media posts, information sessions at the ISD partner locations. So these free camps will show students practical and well-paying connections between their interests and CTE that can begin even at the high school level via dual credit CTE with the possibility of earning a CTE certificate, even before graduating high school. We expect to help formulate clear ideas and build interest in CTE pathways. Once they join, NCTC will coach them through a CTE credential completion. And again, we'll promote CTE access and equity to special populations early in the student's education and career exploration. The camps will be highly beneficial to populations underrepresented in these technical fields. Next slide, please. So each camp, I think this is where we are. Each camp can accommodate 40 students. Our expectation is to enroll over 90% of the participant slots. We'll have a seamless delivery of camps, which will include students' exploration of careers in both information technology and industrial technology sectors, discovering the crossover between the two as the industry migrates to manufacturing 4.0. Very important. We will record and distribute our desired outcomes, our desired project outcomes, which include exposure to CET programs to middle school students and future enrollment to dual credit high school CTE courses, students' exploration of careers in information technology and industrial technology sectors, participating students' successful completion of the stated camp session competency goals within each camp, a toolkit to facilitate replication by peer institutions, and data to inform development future of NCTC camps and other CTE programs. And then number 6, the future enrollment in CTE pathways for high skill, high wage, in-demand occupations. And we expect to ensure effective and accurate project management of the entire process. Next slide, please. So these are the deliverables for the industrial technology camps. The Saturday camps will consist of 3.5 hours. In the Saturday camps, we'll be demonstrating the Tesla coil assembly and then have an explanation of the Raspberry Pi utilization Tesla coil. Most of these will be just to entice the interest. The summer camps will be more hands-on. And so the summer camps will be 4-day, and they'll be hands-on, where they will build a Raspberry Pi and Tesla coil interface, utilize CAD and 3D printers. And they're going to build the coil container. And of course, they're going to learn and understand the theory of the Tesla kit. So as you can see, there are 3 areas of focus for the industrial deliverables. The curriculum will tie them all together, primarily with the Raspberry Pi. We'll be discussing electrical theory using the Tesla coil as a demonstration tool, not the Tesla coil theory itself per se. That would be a more complex discussion. We'll use the 3D printer demonstration drawing that represents the case for the Tesla coil when assembled, and the explanation of how the Raspberry Pi can be used as a music conductor utilizing the Tesla coil. And just a point of interest here for my own self here, I'm probably going to attend these camps so that I can learn what some of this stuff is. Next slide, please. Let's see, where are we?
Again, Manny, just for planning purposes, just want to let you know you have 5 more minutes.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to go right through these. I'm having difficulty seeing the slide because it's oversized. Stephanie, can you please go to slide 9 for me, please? If you can tell where you are. Okay, so these are the deliverables for information technology. We're going to use Python to learn foundation programming principles. We're going to show them how to plan and execute a program. We're going to utilize the Cosmo robot using artificial intelligence for the concepts and robotics. And we're going to assemble a Raspberry Pi and have some practical labs, and then end up having some team competitions with robots. So isn't all of that exciting? I mean, we're going to have toys in front of these young students to really help them gain the interest of wanting to find out what we can help them with in the future. Next slide, please. So here are some of the planned activities that we have coming up. We're going to obviously recruit and have a hire a staff rather. The staff at NCTC is very committed to helping students, so we will not have a problem obtaining instructors and what we need. We still need to develop the camp sessions. We're going to develop a lunch and learn session where area workforce agencies and employers, partners will come do lunch and learn presentations. We've got to identify the venues, of course, being COVID compliant. There's still some processes that we got to finalize, and our marketing we got to finalize still. And the next slide, please. Recruiting campers is a big effort, of course, and we feel confident we've got the connections now to do that. We've got to design the actual Saturday schedules and the summer camp schedules, and we'll follow up with a post-camp meeting where we can clean up what we need to clean up and address the things that we need to do. And of course, we're going to develop that toolkit where we can have it for future use for us and for other colleges. We're going to research and identify 2 community colleges as mentees. So we'll reach out to them for that. Here are the Saturday the actual camp dates that we've tentatively have. As you can see, there's one in spring. There's one this coming summer, actually 2 this coming summer. It looks like I'm going faster than you are, sorry. Then we're going to year 2 with a fall and spring Saturday camps, and then a summer camp. We'll finish with a summer camp, and then a follow up with all the camps. And of course, these days you can't go without mentioning the C word, COVID-19. So we have some contingency plans in place where we're only having 1 Saturday camp this year. And then we're exploring online and virtual options, as well as postponement options to safer time and in-person sessions. Next slide, please. So to conclude real quick, to summarize, we'll provide some CTE hands-on experience at these camps, which will be very exciting. We'll focus on information technology and industrial technology. We'll market towards middle school students and the underrepresented, especially. And we'll definitely develop a replication tool that can be used, a toolkit that can be used for later on. So, and finally, like I mentioned at the beginning, NCTC is investing in the future to be in alignment with the 60 by 30 Texas goal. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Manny and Rebecca. You guys are doing great work with the different programs that you're in charge of. Our final presentation today is entitled Fast Track to Student Success in Advanced Manufacturing. Dr. Laura Marmolejo is the Department Chair of Advanced Manufacturing at Austin Community College. Previously, she served as Head of Instruction for Continuing Education at ACC and led a curriculum design delivery team which delivered training to several major manufacturing clients. Dr. Marmolejo has over 10 years of industry experience as a process engineer and worked in multiple areas involving process control, material evaluation, equipment optimization, and quality improvement. She holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, a master's degree in metallurgical engineering, and a doctorate in education. She has been with the college since 1998 and has dedicated her life to educating students in the field of manufacturing. Our second presenter, Randy Floyd, is a program manager for corporate and business initiatives for the Department of Advanced Manufacturing at Austin Community College. Randy came to Austin Community College in 2013 after spending 10 years in the advanced manufacturing industry with Motorola and Freescale Semiconductors. His experience in organizational creation and design in the industry was the subject of a Harvard Business School case study, and he has drawn heavily upon this background while developing ACC's response to the growing educational needs of the advanced manufacturing community in Central Texas. He is the former president of the Georgetown Youth Baseball Association and is the author of Ball Shark, an expanding series of novels for young fans of the sport. He holds a bachelor's of business administration in accounting and finance from Texas A&M, a master's of science in marketing management, and a master of business administration in international management, both from the University of Texas at Dallas. Thank you both and welcome to your presentation.
Thank you for having us. So I'm very excited to be here because I'd like to share with you some of the things that we're doing in the advanced manufacturing space. So if you could forward to the first slide. I wanted to start off by at least identifying at least the problem statement or the way we perceive it in our Central Texas area. ACC's manufacturing department, really, we were looking at the environment that we're working in and the community that we serve, and we recognized that there was a need to create innovative strategies that would help our non-credit students transition from a skill attainment environment to academic credentials. And along the path, we wanted to provide in and out points where a student can have access to education no matter at what point he enters and exits, because all the population we serve is very diverse and we need to be able to respond to all students, being whether they're just interested in employment or if they're trying to move up in their career path. So we felt that we were perfectly positioned to address this. And the main reason is because when we launched the manufacturing department, we actually took our non-credit manufacturing programs as well as our credit programs and put them together. So I can oversee both sides, and that's extremely beneficial to the companies, because most companies don't understand the difference between non-credit or continuing ed versus credit. So from their perspective, they want to have us serve their needs, but they don't necessarily understand that there could be technically two different departments, two different deans, two different pathways. So now there's only one pathway at Austin Community College, and it's really been a great opportunity to really connect the career path from beginning to end within the college. As Natalia was speaking about earlier, they're dealing with how do we engage the high school students, and what we're looking at is the next step. How do we engage the population that is not, that doesn't have credentials, and help them either get some kind of credential and then move their pathway along to the credential side if that is their choosing. So the manufacturing department is overseeing both sides, and we're able to align them as best as we could possibly do. So we have also, being that we've been working with industry for quite a while, and we've established some very strong relationships with our industry partners. We do everything basically in collaboration with them. As we start to develop curriculum, or as we start to develop programs, we work with our partners to see where their gaps are, to see what skills they're missing, to see how we can help them. And when we make those decisions, we also look at how they fit into the longer scheme of things, meaning how do they fit into the academic side. Next slide. So the purpose of this project, and the reason we were very excited about getting this opportunity to work on this Perkins Leadership Grant, was because we could come up with strategies, and we wanted to develop these strategies to demonstrate that we could remove barriers that can lead to increased student success. meaning we want the students from our non-credit side to be able to see themselves as students and continue on to the academic side. We want them to achieve credentials along the way to make themselves more marketable. We wanted to also improve pathways to credentials from non-credit to credit. It's sometimes difficult to do that, but we want to find a model that will show how we can easily create those pathways. And it starts by identifying how it fits in. Once you're starting to develop a non-credit program, is to look at it and see how it fits in the longer scheme and align it as best as you can. We also wanted to contribute to the overall advancement of CTE in Texas and support the growing industry. Central Texas has been very strong in the manufacturing space, and they're continuing to show the potential to increase over the next few years. So with that, we have to be able to serve their needs by providing students that can fill the jobs that they're going to be bringing to the Central Texas area. And then the last objective of this project is to encourage institutions statewide to adopt these type of innovations. We want to find the best possible solutions and try to share that with as many people as possible, as many colleges as possible, specifically community colleges, because we are perfectly positioned to serve our industry and serve our students at the same time. Next slide. So once we've completed this 2-year project, some of the deliverables that we will have is shared best practices, strategies, and materials that we would like to share with other institutions. We would like to deliver some trainer seminars to share our experience, share our curriculum, share what we've done with everyone. We'd also like to establish a manufacturing educational pathway framework, a clear alignment from non-credit to credit, which includes articulation and identifying which associate degrees are best fits for our curriculum. Along with that, the more tangible things we need up front is to develop student materials for our technical courses and standardize them, and then create a sustainability plan such that it doesn't matter who's in charge, that no matter who steps in, that the system will continue to operate as we intended. And then we want to evaluate that at the end by looking at our student success metrics, looking at completions, looking at transfers or transitions, I should say, and also employment outcomes and feedback from industry as well. Next slide. All right, so we just this is our first year on this project, and some of our year 1 action items. And again, as Natalie mentioned earlier too, with the COVID situation, it's been a little bit more challenging, but we wanted to recruit and post for 2 key positions. The 2 positions, one is a technical writer that would help us really create these student materials that we need to help deliver these courses to upskill employees. And then the second one, which is even more critical to me, is the student success coordinator. We have that within the college, but we wanted to identify a person who would be there to support our non-credit students and really find out what it takes to create processes that will help guide them into credit versus them having to go to each individual department. We want someone who can establish these relationships, these links to financial aid, to advising, to enrollment, to all the different areas, and create these basically sub-processes that will make that transition easier. Because at this point, it's been very challenging for a student to find their way from non-credit to credit. We also want to develop the student material template for our non-credit core curriculum. Along with that, we will gain commitment from 3 industry partners who will review the materials to ensure that they serve their needs. And then we want to establish a statewide advisory work group to support our project. We want to have input from all different entities to ensure that it's as robust as possible in our direction, and to guide us and give us feedback to ensure we're being most effective in our goals. And lastly, we want to definitely establish that alignment between the non-credit courses and the academic degree programs, and articulate it wherever possible and identify what the roadblocks are if we're not able to articulate that. Next slide. Our second year action items will be to complete our we call it our fast track student manuals for one of our course series, which is the electronic series. Again, we've identified some key core curriculums that most industries in our area need, and we want to package them as a series, and we want to establish those manuals so that we can allow them to be offered through our open enrollment process. And
Laura,
yes,
I just want to let you know you got about 5 minutes.
okay, no problem. So once we're finished with that, we will offer these courses through open enrollment. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, we want to establish these, we want to institutionalize the processes that we need to support our non-credit students. We also want to define a baseline for our program evaluation so that we can manage and monitor as we grow in our department. And then we want to create the best practices in a manufacturing pathway framework that we can share and deliver this information through training seminars to the other community colleges in the Texas area. And I believe that's the last slide. We can do one more. And that is, I made it. Thank you all. Any questions?
Thank you so much for that excellent presentation. All of the presentations have truly been fabulous, stimulating, and have opened up new lines of thought. I'm actually a little depressed that the conference has come to an end. I was looking forward to it, and it truly has been enlightening and a very worthwhile exercise. Dr. Rannis, are there any questions from our collaborators?
I don't see any in our Q&A or chat boxes at this point.
Well, then if you all indulge me, I think that there's a question of rigor. I think that I wouldn't want to say the 1,000-pound elephant sitting in the room, but it certainly is an issue that I think would be beneficial for us all to address. And I'd like to open this question up to all of our panelists. You can probably anticipate what it is. This has, without a doubt, been an unprecedented year. COVID-19 has affected us in more ways, I think, than we could have imagined when the contagion began. So what I would ask all of you is, how have your respective programs and the approaches to making your programs successful in the context of these, in this context of the Perkins grant, how have your approaches in those programs changed? And what have you learned during this process that you could apply to similar circumstances in the future?
I'd like to just take a stab at that one. One of the things that I think has been highlighted by this situation is that, yes, we have gone online and not all of that's been great. I mean, the more hands-on, the better is the way we feel. But we do realize that some portions may be able to be done online, which allows a broader population to access the curriculum. So I, for one, feel that this has opened the door to possibly having more thought to identifying where hybrid courses might be applicable, or maybe finding new ways. Again, we always have to look at new ways to serve people. And there's a lot of times that people don't have the ability to come to us. So if we can go beyond that, maybe package them differently, some things virtual, some things not, and really identify, do we always have to be face-to-face? And we do like the synchronous virtual classes, meaning I'm not a fan of just putting things out on the web and saying, go ahead and do this. Every class I do is synchronous virtual, but live synchronous. And I think that's also been very helpful. So I think that's a new way of looking at education as to where can we tweak it a little to serve a broader group that maybe doesn't have access due to transportation or other things.
So Kevin, if I may.
Yes, please.
Okay, so at North Central Texas College, it's the same way. Dealing with the COVID process has been, we've made the adjustments and we think we're doing real well. As far as these camps that are coming up, we are planning to have them face-to-face, but of course we do have some contingencies to have them either virtual or some other means, but or even just postpone them. I need to add that with freezing weather just recently, we had quite a bit of damage to some of the campuses. And so we're going to have to maneuver around not just COVID, but around that to see where we are as the dates approach. I'm going to turn it over to Susan if she would like to add anything else to this.
Yes, thank you, Manny, for presenting. And I would say one of the key things, like Manny mentioned, we're going to work with middle school students, right? And many elementary K-12, they have been operating remotely for months. And a couple of weeks ago, I heard the term Zombies, right? They've spent so much time online that they're becoming zombies, and are they really engaging when they're on an interactive learning setup? So one of the key points or triggers we're looking for is truly that engagement and interaction throughout any training that we have going on. We've got to stay tuned into how are those students reacting, how are they really participating. Another point, Manny mentioned, obviously our focus is on infotech and information technology as well as industrial technology, but we're also going to train students on how to do career exploration, period, right? A lot of times parents are the ones who sign their kids up for a camp, and it may or may not be an interest point for them. So we want to build a passion with them for these career pathways. But if it's not a match, we want them to know how on their own they can explore career opportunities and career pathways themselves and with their parents and with their friends, because everybody knows that House Bill 5 requires by the end of the 8th grade, these students to make a career pathway choice going into high school. And we want to do everything we can to help them in that process.
No, thank you so much, Susan. And you're absolutely right. And the interesting aspect of the pathways is obviously there are merits to it, but we also wonder about it when we know that students who matriculate into a university during the first few years will be changing their career multiple times. Nonetheless, it does have its pros and cons. Any other input with regard to COVID-19, lessons learned, best practices as they evolve, how your program approach might have changed as a result of COVID-19?
Kevin, this is Rebecca.
Hello, Rebecca.
With ACC. And I think for us, it pointed out some places where we really needed to make improvements and kind of accelerated the response in making those improvements. Some of the things that, I feel like in some ways we give the students better service because now we have a lot of one-on-one conversations with them yes, it's via virtual, but it's a one-on-one conversation and not a 1-on-10 when they're in a room with everybody else that's in that class or that's interested in this program. So I think that's working well. But yeah, there were a lot of technical things that we needed to improve in the delivery of courses to the high school for our career academies and things. And I feel like that we've really been pushed to make those changes, and I'm actually very happy about it.
It's interesting, Rebecca. I think that we have this sort of ubiquitous proclivity to focus in on the deleterious aspects of COVID-19 and our transition to new kinds of technologies. But there is a silver lining to much of this. I think in many ways, institutions, as you alluded to, have been forced to innovate and to find new approaches. And in many ways, that innovation and those new approaches are going to benefit our students, and they're going to give us tools that'll enable us to be much more successful in the future.
Kevin.
Yes, ma'am.
I felt like COVID-19 helped me when it came to my CLNA process, because all the survey data then allowed me to create word clouds. Instead of having my own internal biases, the word clouds just clearly showed what were the funding priorities or what were the issues that the stakeholders really needed me to address.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's opening up new opportunities. It's opening up also new areas where we need to focus with a little bit more detail, no question about it. I guess one final question for all of you with regards to this is special populations are a priority for us. Do you feel that in any way special populations have been particularly adversely affected as a result of COVID? And what steps do you think we should be considering in these programs and otherwise to address that need?
I'm going to jump in here first, if you don't mind. I think it had a significant impact. Special populations don't always have virtual access. And so we were, how do they come to the food bank and get food when they need transportation assistance? The aged out of foster care, I could take each of 9 categories and tell you specifically, but if you just drill down and you look at it, there are special populations for a specific reason. And when it comes to technology and when it comes to all these virtual things, I personally, I don't have enough data to back it up. I think our special populations actually decreased. And that of course included some enrollment decreases. So I still don't think we will fully understand or fully see until we hopefully, I say that word, get back into what will be the regular aspects of classrooms and involvement in being on campus, where we will hear a lot of those stories about what they really did to survive.
Absolutely. And as we do drill down into some of that data over the next few years, it's going to be illuminating, but I think it's also going to be a little depressing because we're going to see entire populations and subpopulations that were unfortunately marginalized for circumstances. I know that our family in Mexico, the circumstances have been horrific. There are entire communities, as you can imagine, without any internet, without any access whatsoever. And those are student populations that are going to be losing a year and perhaps even more. Any other input before I conclude the question and answer session?
I was just going to make a quick comment and say that I agree that our special populations have suffered on a higher percentage than ever before. And I think this is a key focus for us in working with local school districts to understand what technology is in their hands and to make sure that they'll still have access to that tech in the summer, right? When we're wanting to do a camp, that they're not going to collect it all and students will be left back in that void of no connectivity. So we have tremendous partners within the school districts as well as businesses, and I can see them being committed to supporting the students and us in making this possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Those kinds of strategies are indispensable in combination with others because I'm going to end there because there is somebody mowing the lawn out in front. This is highly professional. My sincere apologies. I did not expect it, so I will turn the floor over to our conference coordinators. Thank you so much for the input, the stimulating presentations, and the fabulous dialogue.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, panelists. I'll take this opportunity to apologize for just sort of stepping off screen as we began our last break. A grocery delivery came talking and walking straight to my door as I was trying to give you all break. So apologies for that. I hate to end this discussion session. I'm just going to point out here that both the data and the authentic experiences of students where they can be captured and put on the record are going to be invaluable. I think what the impact of this pandemic has wrought on the lives and on the economic well-being of students is historically significant. And that is worthy of some further study and worthy of some dissemination if such information can be collected. That said, let me end this part of the day by thanking our panelists, Temple College, ACC, NCTC, ACC again, ACC yet again, and Houston Community College. Thank you all so much. And Kevin, thank you for moderating this panel. I will now turn this presentation over to, or this day over to Dr. Tina Jackson, who will take us out with a final presentation of her own and discussion and Q&A with you to wrap up this mini conference. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you all. I hope you all are doing well. We have had a great 2 days so far. And so I just wanted to come and share a few words with you and also encourage you through this season that we're in. Excited to be here with you as the new Assistant Commissioner of Workforce Education, which is a new division to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So just so glad to be here with you to share and excited about the work that we're going to all engage in together. You can go to the next slide. So yesterday I spoke a little bit about the refining 60 by 30 that is happening. And this is really exciting news for us at the coordinating board. What I'd want to share with you, just to reiterate, some of you all heard this yesterday, but we have really looked at, and this is of course with the commissioner's lead, how we can expand the focus of who we are actually targeting and serving. And so we know that yes, the 25 through 34-year-olds, that population is critical, but then we also know that we need to really step back because of COVID and other things that have happened over this season when we began to plan 60 by 30 and open up our services to our individuals, our Texans around the state who might be 35 to 64 that need upskilling and reskilling. So we are doing just that. What else we're doing is we're really looking at how COVID has impacted our student population and how we can better serve them. Looking at research and innovative ways to take the silver lining out of this. A lot of you all have mentioned it today, and it's clearly working that we are reaching more colleagues, we are reaching more students, and we will continue to do the research to see how we can meet the needs of our special populations. Another piece to this puzzle is really looking at making sure that we have the resources for all students. And so many of you all know we've been doing creative things around that to make sure that our students are able to get the broadband that they need, to make sure they're able to get the online educational resources that they need, and to really ensure that in the rural populations and also among our Hispanic and African-American students who are living in situations where they may not have access, that we are able to reach those special population groups as well. And so that's something else that 60 by 30 is really refining, and we're looking at equity and how we can make sure that as we move forward, we are reaching the needs of all of our students. Another piece that is really important, and all of you have talked about this today, is making sure that we're really intentional about how we are doing work moving forward as it pertains to credentials. And what does that mean? That means that basically the high skills, the high credentials that are necessary for the workforce demands of today and tomorrow, that we're really working collectively, collaboratively, and intentionally with our industry partners. So excited to hear about all the great work across the state. Many of you I know and I appreciate, and as you know, colleagues, I'm passionate about helping students and helping them to really move forward towards their workforce. Connected to moving to the next level of talking to you all and engaging with you. It looks like, let's see here. I don't see did you go to the next slide, Stephanie?
No, you cut out. So you want me to advance? It cut out.
Yes.
Briefly. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that, colleagues. So as I mentioned, if you didn't hear me, I don't know if you heard me or not, another piece of this puzzle is that we've all been engaged in the regional work of coming around and having listening tours to talk to all of you and find out more about some of the challenges that you're seeing across the state. Many of you have been involved in that work. We've had 8 listening sessions so far. We have another one scheduled, and then we will also have a large statewide convening. So more to come from our commissioner on that and how that work will move forward. And I just wanted to share that with all of you all. You can go to the next slide. So I wanted to share with you all a little bit about what Texas looks like. And many of you all know this, but as we talk about refining 60 by 30, I think it's also critical to look at where we are as far as our diversity and how we can serve the students of Texas and the Texans that we may not even be connecting with at this point. So as you can see here, we have a really a shift occurring with diversity, and we have a very large Hispanic population. And currently, as we move forward, we know that our Hispanic population and our students of color, those populations are going to grow statewide even more. So it is really important as we talk about special populations and how to better serve them, that we're really having these conversations that we've had today and that we will continue to have as we move forward to plan out the next, I would say 10 years. Okay, you can go to the next slide. This is another slide that really talks about the investments that we're engaged in currently. And many of you all know this, that we have a large percentage of our population of Texans who are unemployed or underemployed right now because of COVID. And so we've really, at the coordinating board, put quite an investment in community colleges to make sure that we're able to upskill and reskill. And there's been some great people, some of them who are on the line today that I'd love to thank. Some of our colleagues from across the state have already been engaged in that work. So I say thank you. And as we move forward, we have a second round of upskill and reskill dollars that are coming out. And so we say thank you in advance to our colleagues who are engaged in that work as well. You can go to the next slide. This is a snapshot of where we are with enrollment, and we weren't extremely surprised by this because we knew that COVID had really hit us statewide. And so as you can see here, we were down in the fall about almost 4% statewide. And the largest drops were really around the community college levels. And so this is just for information for you to know where we're at. And we're not extremely surprised by this, but we know that this is something we have to make sure that we follow. And so as we do our reskilling and upskilling grants, we're really looking at how can we get those students back who we lost, those students that may have had all kinds of other issues that were related to family crisis and things that in many cases cause you to have to stop and help family and go to work. And so this is something that we are constantly talking about at the coordinating board, and I'm sure that you all are as well. You can go to the next slide. And this is also to share with you all, demographically speaking, since we have talked a little bit about equity today, and that is another focal point that we have. Here, as you see, as it pertains to enrollment, the enrollment numbers were down for students of color, and that is a concern of us, especially among our African-American students who were in the ones who are in the United States. We know that they were down the highest, and then internationally speaking, we were down about 14%. And so this is a challenge, of course, across the nation, but as we talk about COVID and where we're headed, we know that these are areas that we're going to have to strengthen with enrollment and advising, and we just can't say enough about the wraparound services that will be needed in order to meet the goals of getting these individuals back into the pathways so that they can get to their goals. Next slide. All righty, and so this slide shows what we often talk about, our first time in college enrollments, and they were down at both levels, the 2-year and the 4-year. What can we do to move forward in the future? I don't have a slide on this, but I will share an important piece is really financial aid and getting our students who are graduating now engaged in financial aid. We know that that is something that is important. We are watching other states that are being strategic and working collectively with counseling and advising and making some requirements for our high school students as far as graduation goes. But this is another challenge that we see with COVID and with some of the things that we don't know, that many students are not going straight into college after they graduate from high school, which we understand why with all of the stressors of COVID. Next slide. I'm going to share with you all a little bit. I mentioned that the Workforce Education Division is a new division of the coordinating board. And so I wanted to just share a little bit about what we are all responsible for within the division. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about what our overall goal is. And our overall goal is really to fast track careers, students to careers that support the workforce demands regionally. So we're really all about fast tracking students. We want to get them into the areas that they desire to be into. And most importantly, we want them to be aware of where the industry demands are so that they can go down those pathways and get to the place of getting out of whatever situation they're in currently and prosper. So as you can see here, we have two pathways. We have the career and technical education pathway, which primarily focuses in on our 2-year programs. Many of you all represent those. And then we also have the transfer pathway for our colleagues in our 4-year institutions that really are doing great work around embedded credentials and stackable credentials and pathways, which include memorandums of understanding, and then also which includes our transfer agreements. You can go to the next slide. So here's another slide that shares with you all what those programs are that we are all in the Workforce Education Division working on. And I just can't say enough positive things about all of my colleagues. I will say that I'm so grateful for the team that we have currently who are on with me now. And Mindy and Dwayne and Valerie and Sherry and Stephanie, you all are doing great work today with the career education pieces that we have put out. I'm just excited to be a part of this great team. You can go to the next slide. So here's another slide that shares with you all some of the pathways work that we're engaged in. We're doing tri-agency work along with our Texas Workforce Commission and then also with TEA. And the importance there is for us to be strategically working collectively so that as we move forward, we all know what each other is doing so we can complement each other's work and share from the lens that we're in. Oftentimes, as you all know, colleagues, we don't always work together, and then we'll find out about different initiatives. And they may work together, but they may have worked better together if we talk together first. So I'm excited about the work of the Tri-Agency Workforce Initiative. I think it's a great partnership that we have, and you'll hear more of that as we move on into the year now. We're also responsible for 2+2 programs and articulation agreements. Cybersecurity is a big piece of our work. And as many of you all know, with Senate Bill 64, we are now gathering a group to do some work around how to develop those pathways from the K-12 all the way to the 4-year institution as it pertains to cybersecurity. So you'll hear more from us on that front. We did have a meeting scheduled, but due to the storms last week, that was not able to happen. So we're rescheduling that as we speak. I'm also excited to be a part of the WECM Advisory Committee. That's another piece to our puzzle with this workforce education division that we have established. And then last but not least, we also are working in collaboration with ACGM and their work groups that really make sure that as we move forward with the work, we are confident.
And we'll give Tina a minute to restore her connection. Tina, we lost you for a minute.
You lost me.
Yes, you may want to repeat the last 2 or 3 things you said.
Oh, this is so fun. Colleagues, don't we just love the fun of Zooming in the midst of whatever may be going on in the community you're in? Well, I'm so glad that we all know what this is like. And so I'm not going to delay things. I'm going to just share that in this slide, this is all about how we are partnering and how we are making sure that we make those connections and make things happen, not only at the community college, but also at the four-year university. And I had mentioned with the tri-agency work, the importance of all of us working together, from the Texas Workforce Commission to the TEA, and even at the coordinating board. How about that? So I just can't say enough positive things about that. I'm going to go on to the next slide in hopes that I don't have any more internet connection issues. So this is just to share a little bit with you about the dollars, the emergency, Governor Emergency Education Relief Funds. And so as many of you all are aware, we received dollars, and we have been excited about giving out reskilling and upskilling funds. And we are actually on round 2 now. So we'll be sharing more in the really near future in March about where that's at and how those groups of grantees will be serving a great amount of students. You can go to the next slide. All righty, so we received $46.5 million to do this work, the reskilling work, and we've had so many great colleagues from across the state involved in that work for round 1. What I'd love to share with you all is that we're going to be able to assist, and we have been assisting students who were not able to come back to school with financial aid. And because of that work, those students will be able to complete degrees. So kudos to all the colleagues across the state who are involved in that work. You can go to the next slide. So because of the importance of this work, I just wanted to also share, I talked about it at the beginning, and hopefully I didn't cut out at that time, but I talked about at the beginning with what's going on with COVID. We've got about 4 million Texans who are unemployed, and there's really an important need for us all to work together to get those individuals employed. And so this is just giving you the landscape where we're at. This was it as of December, and I'm sure that even as we speak, there's colleagues who are challenged with working with these populations. And so that's why we're all here today. So I'm excited about this work. You can go to the next slide. And I know that as we move forward, we will continue to talk about how we can best serve those individuals who are unemployed and also underemployed because they had to pick up work based off the fact that they needed something to take care of their families. So this slide just represents a list of the different colleges and universities from across the state who received reskilling grants. Lots of you on the line have received dollars, and I thank you for your work. And we're looking forward to continuing this work with round 2. You can go to the next slide. We have on the second slide, it also shares with you all the grantees. So there's, of course, lots of you, and it was just great to be able to be a part of that work. And then finally, on the next slide, I just wanted to share a quote of our commissioner. And I think that we all know this, but I just wanted to share it because I think that this is what this work is all about. It's really about making significant commitments to create programs that align students to workforce with high value credentials so that they're ready for today and also tomorrow. I'm so grateful for the work that we're all engaged in. And I'm going to open the floor. And I also just wanted to share, I was listening to all of my colleagues from across the state. You all made such great comments, and the presentations were fabulous. I just want to say that one of the things that had me thinking was, how can we be more intentional and strategic about how we do the work of partnering up with our industry partners across the state? And then also, how can we think differently about retaining, recruiting, and making sure that this new population of students are actually completers and employed? How can we, just as colleagues in general, focus in on that? I'm going to turn the floor over to Sherry. Hopefully you all heard me. Sorry for technology, not sure what happened, but so glad to be with all of you.
Technology is a beast all to itself. Dr. Jackson, we have one start-off question. It's a really great question, so I'm going to read it to you. The Lumina Foundation added industry-recognized credentials to A Stronger Nation, the goal of 60% of adults holding post-secondary degrees or certificates by 2025. And like, as you mentioned, expanding the ages for the overarching completion goal for 60 by 30 TX. Is there a possibility for Texas to consider adding high-value, industry-recognized credentials to the overall attainment completion goal for our state? Are we going to add high value industry recognized credentials?
So my short answer is, I think that that would be excellent. We have to be careful though, because regionally, the state looks different. So I think that it's a conversation of figuring out how we can really look at what those top 5 areas are in each region, and how we really can all agree on that. To be really honest, Sherry. And I know that the two of us, Dr. Reyes, we've talked about this as we've moved forward with thinking about different ways to serve our population through the reskilling grant. So thank you for that. That question. Did I answer that? Is the person on who asked the question, do you want to chat and share with me if that was what you were looking for?
Sure, I'll monitor that, see if our question comes back with another underlying thing. I was going to say, Dr. Jackson, yes, this is something we talk about a lot, and also operationalizing the term high value.
Yes.
It's something that we think about and talk about a lot. And we've had conversations with different institutions around the state about that very thing, because high value can be operationalized a lot of different ways. But one thing that we didn't make clear, we found very clearly to be the case, is everyone believes it should have a regional cast to it. It should have a regional definition, because our regions in Texas are so very different in terms of employment and occupational aspect.
That is correct.
Yeah. I'm not seeing any other questions right now, but I can ask you one on behalf of everyone. So it's been only a couple of months in THECB, and we're so grateful that you're here. Do you have, would you like to share anything that has been the biggest surprises that you've encountered in the past couple of months? Hopefully good surprises as well as bad ones.
You know, I think that I was surprised by, we're all in COVID. And I have colleagues on here who've worked with me. So they know I move around a lot, and I'm very much passionate about helping students and putting together systems to make things work better. But I think one of the surprises was how well we have captured online instruction, online trainings, and just working together in an online environment. And so that was something that I was really excited about. And so I heard several colleagues mention the silver lining of being able to reach out to larger populations because we are all now virtual. And I would even argue with the coordinating board, we've had a lot of success with reaching more of you all. And even in my short tenure of being with the coordinating board for about 3 months now, I've seen a lot of great ways to use technology to work together in this season that we're in. So that would probably be one of the great silver linings that I've seen at this point. Well, I know we've been going for a while, and I often talk about Zoom fatigue, and I know that it is real. I just want to say thank you to all of you. I'm going to turn the floor back over to Mindy. I don't know what happened with technology, but maybe because we were all so hot today and the information was so great, I guess something happened and my computer just needed to cool down.
Thank you,
it was
Dr.
so nice
Jackson.
talking to all of you guys, and I wish you the best. And I'm always available if anyone wants to chat with me or send me an email. Mindy, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson, for this very good closeout. It's wonderful to hear from you. I know colleges join me in appreciating it, hearing what you see from your perspective and everything we're engaged in response to it. And I will close out this entire event by thanking all colleges who presented today on their significant work for the students of the state of Texas through Perkins State Leadership Grants. And I will go on to say that I know we have a significant number of the state's colleges here, either as attendees or panelists. I want to praise Texas community colleges. We were hit with this pandemic about 12 months ago now. And what did community colleges do? They immediately pivoted to stay in operation, and they scrambled to find ways to keep their students learning and in college. Dr. Jackson's figures showed that that was not entirely successful. Many forces pressed students out of colleges and into whatever they needed to do to survive in the moment, to get through this pandemic and its impact on the economy. And yet, even in the midst of that, we continue to have this innovative work going on, both for program innovation, and for innovation in equitable access, and for innovation in student services, and helping students become employable. This is no small thing. This is what community colleges do year after year after year in any case. But in this instance of a 100-year pandemic, community colleges did the same times 100. The state's colleges have really come through for their students. We have appreciated very much the work everyone has done. And I want to, again, express my sincere respect and regard for all of you for this. That said, I thank everyone who's been in attendance these 2 days. I thank everyone again who has presented. I want to thank Stephanie, Dwayne, Sherry, and Valerie for everything they did to facilitate this and make it happen. And I thank Dr. Jackson for joining us and presenting us the larger picture, which we don't always get a chance to see as we work to get done what we're charged with doing at community colleges and even at the coordinating board. That said, I wish you well, go forward in safety and in health. If any one of us listed on the screen can be of assistance to you, please do not hesitate to contact us at any time. I wish everyone well. Thank you so much, and this session is adjourned. Take care, everyone.